Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can see in the picture today, let's start the story of where Issei was trained by the dragon gods and became the true dragon god of chaos. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more informations. Also, this is a translate version. You may find some mistakes, specifically in the character's gender. Issei of course is a male, Valley also is a male. Well, with that out, let's get into part 6. The vampire had her eyes closed waiting for her death, but after saying those words, the next thing she heard was a big explosion. For some reason, she didn't feel anything and she realized that someone was in front of her. In fear, she opened her eyes little by little alone to find the person he has longed to see night and day, the person who had stolen his heart. In front of her was none other than Issei. A feeling began to run through her entire body after seeing him. Sadness, happiness, and mainly love were some of the feelings that the vampire experienced, while tears formed on her face. Yasaka and Kuroka arrived next to the vampire along with Ophis, Lupe and Irina who arrived behind her. But the vampire was staring at the brunette in front of her, hoping that it was not an illusion. The brunette who was staring at the god turned to where the vampire was and gave her a sincere smile full of love and affection that when the vampire saw it she couldn't help but shed tears of happiness. The brunette bent down and caressed the vampire's cheek. Anyone else who touched her would end up dead, but that shoulder in front of her was the only man who could touch her. Upon feeling the touch, the vampire could not help but smile a smile full of happiness of love, while the brunette smiled affectionately at her. Seeing her like this, a pain formed in the brunette's heart for not being able to protect her. "It's not a dream." It was the only thing she said before falling unconscious due to fatigue and her injuries. The brunette held her and sold her in the shape of a princess while he saw the beautiful face of the vampire. Who would have imagined that it would turn you into an extremely beautiful woman, even more beautiful than you were before? Said the brunette with a sincere but also melancholic smile. He passed the vampire to Lu Fei. "Fei-chan, please heal her. When she finishes, Kuro-chan, Yasu-chan, help her with her senjutsu, Ophis, Irina. Protect them in the meantime and if you can, eliminate all the enemies you can." Issei asked his loved ones and they all nodded seriously. And they left the place, leaving only their loved one and that crazy god. Note: Lu Fei can heal since healing magic, but it is not like Asia's ability that heals immediately, but she can heal non-lethal wounds, even if slowly. Issei always asks the girls to do something like in the previous comment, but he never orders them anything since they are his future wives and not his slaves. That's why he always asks what they always do, because they love him and trust him. The brunette turned to look at the god seriously while he had an arrogant smile. Fence, but look what we have here, the great and powerful Sekiryudai. The god said in a mocking manner, but the brunette was only watching him without saying or doing anything. "I have to say that it is a great surprise to see you alive," the god said again with great arrogance, but the brunette still did not answer him anything. "You know, after killing you and defeating all the factions and becoming the only supreme god, I plan to take good care of your women. I think we can have a lot of fun," the god said mockingly while laughing. But the only thing, out of nowhere he saw how a crimson spot approached him and hit him hard in the face, sending him crashing into a wall. "You can say everything you want about me. You can insult me however you want," but said the brunette, while a crimson aura began to surround him more and more, and the god left that wall with a look of anger. "But I will never let you talk or touch my loved ones. You listen to me, you damn bastard!" The brunette shouted furiously as the aura formed a crimson pillar, and the whole place began to compress. Then out of nowhere, a powerful aura began to be felt throughout the place, surprising the god since it could rival him. But then he heard, "The one who lives in me is the red dragon. This is the call of the infinite dragon, and its power. Dragon Infinite Drive." When the chant ended, the crimson pillar disappeared, now revealing the armor that rivals a god and was at the level of stopping the Trihexa, while its power overflowed everywhere, leaving the god with a surprised expression, but he immediately became serious. "I will send you straight to hell," said Issei with quite a bit of fury, as he launched himself with great speed towards the god, who could not help but be surprised by the great speed, receiving a strong blow to the face, sending him flying and crashing into several walls and pillars. But that didn't end there, since Issei followed him to make him suffer. After having destroyed several walls and pillars of the castle, the god was able to stabilize himself, and saw how Issei approached him quickly. In a quick movement, the poles collided, causing the entire area to tremble slightly from the strong impact, but the god was confident. And the exchange was won by Issei, making him take several steps back. Issei wasted no time and created 2 magic circles from which a large fireball and a wind tornado emerged. The god was surprised by that, but he was even more surprised when he saw how the tornado absorbed the fireball, creating a huge tornado of fire that hit him head-on, causing him to scream in pain. When the tornado disappeared, the god could be seen with small parts of his body burned and most of his clothes burned. The brunette knew that he had not done much to him since he was a god for a reason. With his jet, he rushed at great speed, and when he was in front, he gave him a strong blow to the face that Indra could not avoid since he was still stunned by the previous attack. When the brunette was going to hit him again, Indra recovered and hit him in the chest that made him retreat. When the brunette looked up to see him, he was already in the air preparing a kick to the face that sent him crashing into the ground. A column. Indra did not wait for anything and sent him several lightning bolts that made Issei scream in pain upon impact. He quickly ran away from the rain of lightning bolts and began to escape from them. D. It was heard from Issei. With his jet, he approached the god who received him with a strong kick in the chest. D. Issei grabbed his foot and slammed him against the ground strongly, making to spit out a little blood. D. Issei charged at every moment, preparing his attack. A little further away from the fight, and the girls quickly walked away since she knew that she couldn't make it easy for her lover, and she didn't want to get in his way since with her current level even Ophis would have problems with him if it is true that she has the power of the Trihexa. Do you really think it's okay? Asked the reincarnated angel with quite a bit of concern. Don't worry, he's going to be fine, Naya. The Nikomata answered, although a bit of concern could be heard in her tone. But despite saying those words, the girls were still worried about their loved one, and they became even more worried when they felt how the whole place began to shake, and they went back to see where the fight was only to observe a pillar of light, and then they could see how a pillar of fire rose from the distance, making the girls even more worried about the well-being of their lover. You don't have to worry. Issei is not someone you can easily harm. In addition to killing him, you can say that it is impossible after all. He has already died 3 times and he has come back 3 times, the dragon said with quite certainty, making everyone sit up. Calm down greatly. Besides, our priority is the vampire. The dragon said again, launching a sphere of energy, killing some enemies that were in her path. Ofa-sama is right. Issei-sama will not die in any way since he knows that we are going to wait for him, said the magician, continuing to fly at high speed while slowly healing the vampire. Note, how Yasaka and Kuroka can fly is because of their senjutsu. When they manage it to such a high degree, they can use the powers of nature to fly like Naruto in his Azura mode. Lu Fei is a magician, she has levitation spells, and she also has levitation spells. Can heal, although this magic is of a high grade and not everyone can use it. Also, it does not heal like the ability itself that heals non-lethal wounds and slowly. They are right, Naya. After all, she still hasn't given me the child I want, Naya. The Nikomata said with a funny smile. The other girls smiled at what was said, although Lupe and Irina blushed at what was said, but they didn't deny it since they also wanted to give their beloved a child. We better hurry up. You can feel that Shiva is on the other side of the city fighting 2 pretty strong guys, and not long ago I could feel Valor arriving, who is now fighting in the city. But we have to go support him since I can feel several merit between the soldiers. The dragon reported, making everyone look serious as they remembered that the merit were low-level gods but very powerful, so much so that they should not be underestimated. The girls quickened their pace, eliminating anyone who crossed their path. In another part of the city, Vala was with his wives in a quite difficult situation since they knew that he had to fight against Indra's army, but they did not think that those Merotra generals were so powerful. Vala was facing 3 of them, making their movements very limited, while his girls were fighting 3 others that were barely keeping them at bay. For a moment, Vala spit out a little blood as he received a powerful blow to his stomach. He was going to hit him again, but Vala blocked it and hit the merit, making him retreat a little. He turned and gave him a paw and a few blows to another while blocking third merit. One of them launched a magical torrent that Vala used deflecting towards another guy, but then he received a kick in the back making him take a few steps forward. One of the Mera took advantage and hit him twice in the face making him spit blood. When he was going to attack he received another blow from the side causing him to be thrown against some rubble. Note, yes, Vala is more powerful than that. But remember that he started his training from scratch and has just reached the power he had before, so he is not as strong for now. Vala's wife said that they went to see if they were okay. They were calmed when they saw him leaving, but they were worried when they saw that his armor was destroyed and there was blood on some parts of his body. The generals who were fighting with the 5 girls launched powerful rays that went straight to the girls who were surprised by their speed and waited for the impact. Valis saw that and quickly summoned 3 white wyverns that stood in front of his girls. Reflect was heard from those little dragons, causing the attacks to be diverted to other sides. The girls were surprised and happy that their loved one had protected them, but they also felt frustrated that they were too weak. I won't let them touch any of my wives for that they have to go through my corpse, Vala said seriously, standing in front of them and activating his armor again. This simple spell and those simple words left the girls' minds completely red and happy to see when their beloved husband appreciated and loved them, and that they decided to become stronger to be with their husband through thick and thin and never let him down. They really felt happy to have a husband like Vali, and in these situations is where they realize when they are loved and appreciated. They all smiled because of that fact. We won't leave you alone, Maya commented, standing next to the loving man. After all, you are our husband, Lavani said with a smile, also standing next to her husband. And we are your wives, Riken commented, standing next to her husband. We promise to be with you through thick and thin, and this is no exception, Ivilia continued, also standing by her husband's side. We are going to demonstrate the power of the wives of the most powerful Hakuryuku. Livania finished saying with a smile, making the others smile in the same way, making Valley cannot help but smile at having wives like them. Who would have thought that I would end up with people like that? Vala said to himself with amusement. It seems that Hayate Issei had a lot of influence on you even getting married. Albion said while laughing at that when remembering how before he didn't even look at a woman. When Vala was going to say something, he could feel someone approaching them. He cursed himself because they were his enemies, but to his relief they were his friend's girls. They need a hand, Yasaka said, descending and preparing for the fight. In the same way all the others repeated the action. Only Lu Fei was still healing the vampire. The dragon stood next to Vali. Issei. It was the only thing Vala said to the dragon, who had a serious expression. In the castle fighting with Indra, the dragon answered seriously, while Vala cursed himself for not being able to increase his power faster since he could barely handle those Merrick, and if he fought against someone like Indra, he was sure he would kill him without any effort, or at least now. For now, it is best to concentrate on eliminating these things, said the dragon, to which everyone nodded and launched into the great battle that awaited them. Only Ophis and LaFace stayed behind since the magician was with the vampire and Ophis to protect them from any attack. The brunette felt a little uncomfortable since she could feel how those Merit were very strong beings, as well as low-level gods, but despite that they were still gods. Even so, she did not hesitate and began to fight with her soul, knowing that she was the weakest of them, and she felt bad for being so weak. But she would still fight with her friends. No. With her sisters, and mainly she would fight. For the person she loves, she was going to give her all in this battle, and she was not going to give up since she knew that her loved one was in a tougher and more dangerous battle than this one. With a loud shout, he swung his lightsaber against one of those guys and blocked another with a second lightsaber with his new double sword style. He felt that it would help him in that battle, and he thanked his boyfriend for teaching him that style. While a great battle broke out in the city on the outskirts of the castle, it was no exception since Issei and the god attacked each other left and right. Each attack was dedicated to killing his opponent, and although the god received a lot of damage at first after seeing the power of Issei, I no longer hesitate and also attack with everything. D. The brunette continued charging charges throughout the fight as he was preparing one of his best attacks. Both individuals hit each other with everything. The god had more strength than Issei, since it was not for nothing that he was the king of the gods of Hindu mythology, in addition to the fact that he is also the god of war and storms of that faction, making his strength is nothing more than a game. Indra sent Issei slamming against a tree, making him spit blood. The fight started a while ago, and it was only getting more intense by the moment. Issei knew that it wasn't going to be easy, but he never thought that damn thing would be so difficult. God is giving him a good fight. The brunette stood up and reassembled his armor where the god had broken it, since his blows were very strong, which caused you to have several wounds from which blood came out. But even so, he did not give up, since he had also caused the same damage to him. Dragon shoot through Issei, to which the god dodged but was surprised to see his enemy next to him. Issei gave him a strong paw, sending him flying against some trees that he broke due to the strong impact. He did not hesitate and approached the god quickly, giving him a strong blow in the face, to which the god returned it. Both collided several blows against each other, creating their surroundings to tremble due to the great power. The brunette was using his penetrate ability the entire time, making the damage even greater. The two fell back from the impact of the last shared blow. Both could see that they were a little tired after all the fight had been going on for a while since it started. "I'm damned if I'm going to kill you for harming a god," Indra said as they created a huge black lightning bolt charged with great power, ready to launch it at Issei. "Let's see if you have the guts to do what you say," said Issei, carrying a large amount of energy in his chest, ready to attack the god with everything. "Death Ray / Long Smasher." The two shouted at the same time, letting their attacks collide with each other, creating a large explosion as they see that it sends the two backwards. The smoke from the attacks covered the entire fighting field, but they still knew that the other was alive, as they could feel their auras that had weakened but not disappeared. "I'm already tired of games. I'm going to kill you once and for all," Indra shouted with great anger, while a black aura formed in his being. Immediately, the brunette could recognize it as the aura of Trihexa. He also raised his aura to enter his last phase. He was not going to lose, much less die, now that he has beings that he knows have waited for him for 10 years. But when the chant was about to begin, one of the generals appears in front of Indra and kneels in front of him. "Indra-sama, we have found it, and we have been able to secure everything," that general reported, causing the god to have a big smile. While the brunette cursed himself for whatever they had obtained, he knew it was nothing good. "Well, very well done, report the retreat now," said the god, to which the general disappeared after receiving his orders. "It seems that I am going to let you live a little longer," said the god, disappearing that black aura that surrounded him and forming a magic circle to leave. "You think I'm going to let you go?" said the brunette, who rushed at full speed towards the god, who had unfortunately already disappeared. "Damn!" screamed the frustrated brunette. He couldn't kill him, and from what he saw he got whatever he was looking for. At that moment, he knew that things were getting more and more difficult. He was glad that Revel's wedding was soon, because he needs to do an emergency meeting with the Alliance. After staying there and resting a little, he felt the presence of his loved ones in the city and went in search of them. In the city, the girls from Issei and Valet were resting. It was a very intense fight where more than once you almost died. Even Vela saw death several times. None of them knew that those guys were tough. Outside of Ophis, of course, it was rather she who eliminated most of the enemies. When they were going to say something, they saw the dragon that began to fly in a direction where a black silhouette was approaching. Yasaka and Kuroka immediately recognized who it was, then through their instincts. Lu Fa was the next to realize who it was, and finally Irina. The brunette hugged the dragon that was flying to him. He could see how worried they were, so he just hugged her, calming all her worries while she immersed herself in that warm hug that she likes so much. When he dissented, he was received by the other girls, who did not say anything and only hugged him. He knew that they were worried about him, so he only hugged them, calming their concerns. Although they were covered in blood in some places, it was nothing serious, and their wounds none was fault. "It looks like they beat you up," Vala commented with a smile. "You were seen as the other one looked," the brunette said with a smile, making Valley and his girls smile. "From what I see, they were having fun," commented Issei when he saw all the destruction and the charred, perforated, destroyed or decapitated bodies that were in the area. But when he saw that they had killed 10 generals, that made him very happy, since those were the strength of Indra. Those damned ones almost killed us. I never thought they were so powerful, Vala said seriously. But forgetting that, how did it go with the god? Valley asked the brunette, who formed a serious and disgusted expression. That damn one does have the power of Trihexa, or at least a part of it. The worst of all is that the attack was not random, said the brunette, making everyone present surprised by that. What do you mean it wasn't random? The kitsune asked, very interested in that part. Indra attacked Romania because he was looking for something, and unfortunately he obtained it, so his troops withdrew since they completed their mission. Issei reported, surprising everyone. I don't know what he got, but I'm sure of one thing, and that's that it's not going to do anything good, the brunette said seriously, making everyone remain silent, since from what they saw, things are getting more difficult. In about 2 weeks, I will have a meeting of the fractions, since I plan to reveal myself at Revel's wedding. After that, I will give all the information I have to the fractions, since this is not something that only we can handle, said the Brown seriously, making everyone nod. Well, I'll inform Shiva about what happened, since from what I see he's already gone, Issei confirmed, not feeling his presence anywhere. I will stay in Rumina to find out what they were looking for, in addition to taking control of the faction, at least until Elman hild wakes up and can resume her position. When he said that, it surprised more than one, although Ophis and Lupe already expected that answer. After all, that's who he is. And so the next 2 days lasted. The brunette took over as ruler of the vampires, making during those 2 days the faction return to normal. Well, as far as normal is concerned, since there was a lot of destruction, but the vampires were already with their lives daily. Also during that time, Issei, with the help of his beautiful wife Lupe, created a barrier that covered the entire city to protect them from possible future attacks, making the vampires extremely happy. But despite that, the brunette is very surprised by their behavior, since, as he remembers, the vampires were extremely proud beings. But when he revealed himself to them and said that he was going to take the reins, none of them opposed, not even him. Vampire Council. Since that moment, the brunette has been directing all of them, and they follow him without any buts, making them feel extremely strange that they are so submissive to him, although instead of submissive he felt that they were happy. Although he was also happy because thanks to that he was able to fix the problems of the attack, and now they were only rebuilding the areas destroyed by the attack, although in all the time he could not find a clue as to what they had taken. On the 3rd day after the attack, Elman hild was waking up after all those events. Note: I know that vampires sleep in a coffin, and it is not the case with them. But on this one occasion, it is not like that. When she opened her eyes, she realized that she was in her room, more precisely in her bed, and immediately all those memories came to her that happened a few moments ago, according to her. But she also remembered that person that she had longed for so much day and night, that one. The person who had stolen her heart was in front of her, protecting her from that attack. She wondered if everything was really a dream, since when she saw that she was alive she didn't know what to think, and when she inspected her surroundings she could sense the vampires throughout the city normally. That discouraged her, since she thought that it really was a dream, and a tear ran down her beautiful face. Note: among all the girls, Elman hild will be one of the most beautiful women who will be with Issei. Although for Issei, they are all beautiful, for other people, Elman hild will surpass them. At that moment, I heard the door open. I'm glad to see that you've woken up, Elman-chan, said a voice that was unmistakable for the vampire. Even with the passing of the years, she will recognize it. And of course, since it was the voice of the person who was always in her thoughts and dreams. At that moment he raised his head to see that person that he had longed for so much, that he loved so much, that person he had already lost 10 years ago. In front of her will be none other than Haida Issei. The vampire froze instantly while more tears ran down her beautiful face. The brunette, upon seeing this, approached her along with his girls who followed him behind. There was also Kiryu, who swallowed her so that she would not be alone, and Tsubaki, who was informed of everything that happened, and he regretted not seeing his loved one, and his sisters helped when he needed it most, including the decision to live with his loved one so that this would not happen again. But going back to what was happening before, the brunette was getting closer and closer to the vampire, who did not take his eyes off her until he got in front of her and sat down next to her on the bed, while she was still frozen since she couldn't. She wanted this to be a dream, she wished it wasn't, She wished it wasn't an illusion and that she was truly in front of the person she loves so much. The brunette extended his hand little by little and wiped the tears from the vampire's beautiful face. Immediately upon contact, a sea of memories and feelings invaded the vampire, who still couldn't believe she was in front of him. She raised her hands to touch the hand that was caressing her face as more tears came out of her beautiful eyes. "It's really you, it's not an illusion, it's not a dream, it's true," the vampire asked in a broken voice and in a pleading tone. Hearing her, the brunette approached her closer and hugged her while stroking her silky hair, causing the vampire to no longer be able to take it anymore and to burst into tears, since that hug was the answer she wanted so much. The vampire did not worry about being seen crying, because in front of her was the man she longed for and loved in her life, and she only clung tightly to Issei as if telling him not to leave her alone. Making him, he hugged her harder and brought her closer to him. "Here I am, and I will no longer leave. I will always be by your side, my dear hild, my dear and beloved hild." This was what Issei whispered in the vampire's ear, making her heart beat faster, and her mind blushing when she heard it. "The shovel, my dear aunt, my beloved." But instead of getting angry, she didn't say anything, since she wanted to be that dear and beloved person for him. That way, the other girls went out and left the couple, since they needed a moment to go to the rooms, mainly mindful of the vampire, who had many things to say to her lover. A few minutes passed in silence while they hugged each other, each one feeling comfortable with just the presence of the other being more than enough. Until the brunette took the vampire and raised her beautiful face and stared at those beautiful red eyes that hypnotized him with their beauty. But the only thing the brunette saw was that girl that he had fallen in love with a long time ago after having so many differences. They realized that they both liked each other, but neither of them ever said anything, whether it was out of pride on the part of the vampire or out of shame and fear of rejection on the part of the brunette. But all that was left behind, since with that simple look they were telling each other everything. And it was no wonder, since Elman held was a girl of about 24 years old with a beautiful body, big but not big breasts, a beautiful waist, wide hips highlighting her figure, and long, sexy legs, as well as snow-white skin, making her look even more beautiful. And if we add to that the fact that her beautiful, unrelenting face with small but exquisite lips and beautiful red eyes made her look like an extremely beautiful woman. The vampire couldn't take it anymore and started to kiss her lover, to what he immediately responded to. It was a calm but tender kiss that gave off all the love and affection they have for each other. They continued that way until they couldn't take it anymore and separated due to lack of oxygen. "I love you, Issei. I love you with all my heart. I love you with all my being. I never told you because of my pride, but now I don't care about anything. I don't mind sharing. I don't mind being the last, but please don't leave me alone. Don't take me away from your side. I don't know what it would be like if I lost you again," the vampire begged as she cried without holding back, while her fear was overwhelming her day after thinking about losing Issei. "I love you too. I have always loved you, even when we started our relationship badly. Later I realized what a wonderful woman you are. And don't worry, now that I'm here I'm not going to leave you. Matt's always by my side, and not like the one last, but as the first of them, as well as all the others, since they are all the first in my life," said the brunette while drying the tears of the vampire, who felt how her heart did not stop beating, knowing that she was finally able to get those words out from his chest, and was infinitely happy to know that his feelings were reciprocated. "I love you, Elman-chan, and although I can't be yours alone, I promise that I will always love you and will always be by your side," said the brunette to taste those exquisite lips again, to which the vampire did not resist and returned the kiss. Kiss the person you love. Note: remember that vampires experience human feelings more strongly than other races. That is why hild is acting and saying that, because her love and fear is greater than that of any other race. The couple spent the entire day together, where from one moment to the next, and with so much kissing, they came to deepen their love in a night that let loose those feelings that they had both held back for so long. Since despite everything, hild was one of those who were always with Issei in the past, along with Revel and Lupe, and after that night where the two showed their feelings for each other, the vampire now had a red tattoo with the head of a dragon on her abdomen, and once again the vampire took advantage of the moment to taste the blood of her lover, to which the brunette didn't care and hugged her tightly so she could do it calmly. When she separated from the brunette, the vampire had a big smile, since she had never tasted such delicious blood, making her from that moment on addicted to her lover, making the brunette smile since he didn't care about his metabolism like a dragon. Creating red blood cells was quite fast, plus he only wanted her to drink his blood, but also thanks to that the vampire was able to recover all her strength since by drinking someone's blood she obtains her powers. Like Issei, he had great resistance, and regeneration helped the vampire's recovery. The brunette and his girls stayed 2 more days in Romania. Of course, each one was going to fulfill their duties when they had to, but during this time with the help of the vampire, they were able to discover what Indra was looking for. But what they found, they did not like. Nothing, and rather I alert them even more. Once those days passed, Issei returned to his home with 2 new tenants since Sabaki moved in with him, and Elman hild was not far behind since she wanted to spend as much time as she could with Issei. Although at first the brunette was worried about leaving the vampire faction, but Elman hild told him that since they are not a very large race and they do not mess with other races, there will be no problem since she left her second in command even though she told him that he would go. You must from time to time since she was still the ruler and had to ensure her safety. In this way, the brunette's life continued normally although the girls trained harder and harder, including Irina who did not want to be left behind and Elman hild who did not want to be a hindrance to her lover and wanted to be of help to him. Although they are not the only ones since he realized that Vala's wives are also training very hard together with Vala since the last fight showed them how weak they are that despite winning he was on the verge of dying more than once. In this way the days continued and the long-awaited day arrived that Issei had arrived, and very early in the morning Issei left for Hell since he needed to speak kindly with the demonic council since they had previously ignored him. He also told his girls that he would see them at the wedding, to which they had no objections and prepared themselves for that great happiness. Underworld, Phoenix Castle. The servants of the Phoenix and Barbados ran from one place to the other preparing everything for the wedding. Although there were a few hours left, they had a lot to do. In one of the rooms of the Phoenix house was the 4th daughter of this family, Revel Phoenix. While she looked at herself in the mirror with a calm look, she was not anxious, worried or anything like that since she had spoken to her friends before and told her that the preparations were almost ready and although they were going to be delayed a little, the wedding was going to be interrupted no matter what. That relaxed the blonde greatly since she still wanted to wait for her beloved brunette to come back for her and take her as his wife, and she was sure that day would come. At that moment he heard a knock on the door and said come in, making the person who appeared was Lady Phoenix who saw her daughter in a very complicated way. Daughter, Lady Phoenix was trying to say but she couldn't. She knew that this was a mistake but she couldn't fix it anymore, and she really thought about the words that the blonde said to her at the previous party, making those words sit very well in her mind, head and worrying about it. In the end, when he finally understood, he realized that that was a mistake but that was already done, and he couldn't fix it. At that moment he remembered the words that the blonde said to him that day. Memory. Lady Phoenix, this is not a threat, but I don't think Issei would like to see his fiancée married to another man when he returns, and I assure you that he didn't want to see what a dragon does when someone tries to separate him from his women, the blonde said seriously as he let out a little of his aura, terrifying everyone, mainly Lady Phoenix who was in front of him. So you better think about what you are going to do from now on, and I hope you choose the right decision. The blonde finished saying, end of memory. Daughter, how do you feel? Her mother asked, worried about her daughter. Okay, mother, the blonde answered calmly, looking at her mother, and although she was angry, she couldn't be with her mother since after all she is her mother. The person who has loved and cared for her all her life could be angry, but despite all that affection and love, she could not feel disappointed since it seems that she did not learn her lesson with her brother and Rias's wedding. When the mother was going to continue speaking, she heard someone knock on the door, to which the blonde Phoenix said come in. But when she saw the people who arrived, she could not contain her happiness, and went to hug them since those who arrived were her best friends. Lu Fei and Irina had gone ahead of the other girls to give support to their best friend. The girls began to talk while everything was seen by Lady Phoenix, who simply left since she knew that she had nothing to do there. She felt very bad for having literally sold his daughter and denied her happiness. Tell me girls how everything is going, asked the blonde Phoenix, a little anxious. Don't worry, Revel-sama. You have nothing to worry about, the magician said with a sincere smile. Yes, Everything is almost finished. Although she informed us that it was going to be late, she would be able to arrive to interrupt the wedding. This time it was the brunette who now had a big smile, since being with her dear friends was something she had not experienced in a long time. A lot. But the feeling of being able to be with her love was something completely different, making the brunette's lively and interactive attitude return in full force. When the blonde phoenix heard that, her heart felt happy and calm, knowing that she can wait for her beloved brunette. Girls, I would like to ask you something that I have been very curious about for a long time, said the blonde phoenix seriously, to which the other girls were surprised by that, but nodded as a sign for her to continue. Why did they forget about Issei-san? Why is she with another man who is not the one you waited so long for? The blonde phoenix asked very seriously, making the girls surprised by that, and even if they wanted to tell her the truth, they wanted to leave that to her loved one. You don't have to worry about that, Revel, the brunette said with a calm smile, confusing her friend a little. All your doubts will be clarified today, Revel-sama. The magician continued with the same smile, leaving the blonde more confused, but she decided to leave it since from what she sees something else is going to happen today, although she did not care since all he wanted was to free himself from this commitment. The girls continued talking as the day passed quietly, and the hour arrived. In a beautiful hall in the Phoenix territory, what for them was a very important day for their clan. It was a pity that they did not know what was in store for them that day. In that beautiful room, we can see how little by little the guests from all over the underworld were arriving, thinking about enjoying a beautiful wedding, without knowing what will happen on the day that everyone will remember as the return of their hero. Among the arriving guests were, of course, the majority of the Phoenix family, and the main family, who were Lord and Lady Phoenix along with their 2 eldest children, since their son Razor had not arrived and their daughter had finished getting ready. There were also 3 of the 4 Maus Seraphiel, Ajuka and Surzek. Even among them was Tiamat, waiting to see her blonde to talk peacefully with him, although what she wanted was to rape him again, and so the guests arrived little by little. Shortly, and after a short time, the room was almost full. 15. Among them were many clans such as Baal, Agars, Haman, Beleth, Asmodeus, Balaam Aserath, Gremry, Citri, and many more. In addition, Valle and his girls were also there, and they knew what was going to happen, and they went to see how things would develop. The Gremry group was already gathered with their respective partners, Asia with Ditham, Sanivaya with Lu, Kuniko and Kunu with Yasuko, Kiba with Tasuka, Gasper with Valeria, Aquino with Zassin, and Rias with Razor. What is Asia and Zenobia were looking for their friend Irina with their boyfriends, who did not see her today without knowing that they have not seen her for almost a month and a little more. Kuniko and Konu were with her husband, although at first glance things were not good since either of them spoke, suggesting that the marriage was going worse and worse. What is Kiba and Gasper did not have any problems since they were talking to each other along with their wives, while Rias was with Razor enjoying their marriage, although for some reason she felt a pain in her heart and thought that something bad was going to happen today. And she was not the only one, since her great friend Aquino, who was also very romantic with her fiancé Zassin, had a very strong pain in her heart, although she did not show it. Away from them, Ross Weiser was with her husband, speaking calmly, although he could see that his wife had a sad face. He lamented that since she had been like this since the Gremry wedding, since he heard that man that he admires. Despite being his youngest, he may be alive. But what hurts him most is that she is not aware of his situation. So she becomes depressed for no reason, according to her, making Ryu curse himself for not being the owner of her heart. But he was also happy since the owner of that beautiful heart his wife had was a great man. Although she was only a wife in name, since they have never done anything, not even on the wedding night, because at that moment he saw how she didn't want to, even if she said yes. But in her eyes I saw that she wasn't looking at me if she wasn't to another person, as if he wanted to convince that what he was going to do is with that person. Anyone would get angry about that, but seeing that she didn't even realize I couldn't get angry with her. As time went by, Ryu realized that his wife's heart was too pure and innocent, since she always saw him as if I were seeing another person, but she didn't realize it. He always wondered who was that person who was in his wife's thoughts and heart, but until today he was able to realize that it was that person who was acclaimed by everyone who was a symbol of admiration and courage. At this point he was glad that all the times he tried to be intimidating with his wife he didn't succeed, since now he believes that it would be better for her to give what she unconsciously wants to the real man she loves. Returning to the party was also the entire Citri group except for their queen, who Sona knew was with her boyfriend. Although when she thinks about that, a feeling of jealousy blossoms in her, since she had not yet clarified her feelings, but now she was sure that she loved both the brunette and the blonde. The problem is which one to love. The party was about to start when all the guests saw a group of beautiful women enter, leaving more than one with their mouths open, but no one said or did anything since everyone recognized all of them. Although more than one could see a new face, leaving more than one blushing, even the women, and everyone saw Elman, who was with the other girls. Her beautiful face with her sexy and beautiful body made everyone present blush a little. At the door, the girls of our brunette were coming in except for a certain magician and brunette, who were still with the blonde phoenix. They all took a look at the room, went to greet the Citri group that they could see, and nothing more, since they did not want to talk to anyone except for a few people. Whether Yasaka went to greet her daughter, who immediately saw that things they were bad with her husband, but she knew it was part of it, so she left her and went to talk to the other mouse. Kuroka went to greet her sister, but when she saw the atmosphere among them she decided not to stay and go with the other girls. After that greeting, what they had been looking forward to for the day finally began. The wedding got off to a quiet start. All the guests were in their respective seats, even Irina and Lu Fei, who had arrived a little earlier. Although they had a mischievous smile that all the girls and Issei understood why, and in the same way they all smiled like that. Even Tsubaki, who thought everything that was going to happen in a few minutes seemed very funny and wanted to see how her king was going to act. At the altar, the heir Barbados had a superior smile since he saw the girls from Issei, but he did not see him, thinking that in the end he got cold feet, and he thought that he was no less, since he surrounded an area of 2 kilometers around guards with orders that when they see him attack to kill. At the entrance you could see the 4th daughter of the Phoenix family with a calm expression. She did not express anxiety, sadness, or happiness. It was simply a calm expression as she walked next to her father without paying attention to him, because she was also angry with him for the idiocy that she had done. Was that she was not like her mother, who, when she saw her, had a look of regret, but her father had a look of pride. "I promise you that I'm going to make you very happy, and we're not going to have much fun after this," the heir Barbados said to his fiancée with a face of lust and arrogance. But Revel didn't even look at him. They still knew that he was running up and down her body with a look of lust, since he knew her body only belongs to one person and only she has the right to touch her. The ceremony began. Everything was going on normally without knowing that a battle was going on outside the room. I mean a massacre, since all the guards were trying to kill the blonde who was trying to get to the wedding. However, it didn't matter that he did everything, it was impossible, and everyone who faced him ended up with several broken bones while they writhed on the floor in pain, and the worst thing was that he didn't even look at them and calmly continued on his way. He was almost in front of the wedding venue and, already tired of those plagues, he turned on his aura and exposed it in all its splendor, causing everyone present to fall to the ground without being able to do anything because of the powerful aura. In the room, they were saying their vows, but before it finished, everyone felt a powerful aura that made more than one of them open their eyes wide while they were sweating profusely because of how powerful that aura was. Except for the blonde girls, who recognized it immediately when they felt how that aura surrounded them and began to intoxicate them with that love and affection that it gave off. In addition to that quality and calm sensation, Valley and his girls. Thanks to Valley, the aura did not affect them even a little. The mouse, even Tiamat, couldn't even stop themselves from their accidents because of the pressure they gave off. At the altar, the heir Barbados fell to the ground helplessly while breathing heavily, and his body trembled with fear. On the other hand, Revel, instead of feeling that pressure, felt how that aura surrounded her as if it wanted to protect her from everything by making her open her eyes. Eyes because of how warm and calm she was, making her remember someone who has that same aura that made her feel that way. Immediately the doors of that place opened, making everyone see who it was, but the surprise was immediate when they knew that such an oppressive aura was coming from that person. "Sorry for the inconvenience," said the now Sujiro with a calm smile. Everyone present had their eyes open as they could not believe that such a powerful, monstrous aura remained on that blonde. Tiamat, for her part, who was trying to resist, opened her eyes wide when she saw how powerful the blonde was. "Please don't get up," the blonde said in a funny way as he increased the pressure so that no one could move from their places. The blonde's girls smiled mischievously upon hearing their lover say that. The blonde thought it was too much and saved his aura, letting everyone recover, although only the mouse stood up next to Tiamat, and one other person as the others tried to catch their breath. When the Barbados heir stopped feeling that aura, he immediately let out a scream. "Guards, kill that damn guy!" Heir Barbados shouted with clear anger in his expression. Even his eyes were red from the anger that would be. 100 guards from the Barbados house entered the living room and immediately surrounded the blonde and his girls, although they all had a calm smile. Immediately the blonde began to walk towards the altar in a calm and carefree manner. The guards, seeing this, tried to attack him, and I say tried since they had not taken a single step to attack him when they fell to the ground with their bodies fractured and completely unconscious. Everyone looked surprised because they didn't even see what had happened. But they saw how the Nikomata and the Kitsune were next to the blonde, opening the way for them. That fact surprised everyone, mainly Kaneko and Kunu, seeing their sister/mother in that way since they had an expression of disgust. All the guests began to tremble when they saw that action since almost none of them could see that action. Only the mouse and a few people. But what really had them shaking is that behind the blonde were all the guards on the ground completely unconscious. They saw the Lu Fei, who was now in her witch clothing, Irina with her 4 pairs of wings spread, Tsubaki was standing normally while in her hands was a Najitana, and the Elman hild was on top of some guards who were unconscious. Only Kiryu and Ophis hadn't done anything yet. Everyone felt a cold run down their spines as they saw how a small group decimated 100 lairs who were experts in battle. Although those who know this group were not surprised since it was not a normal group. But Sona was beyond astonishment, since she didn't remember her queen being so strong that she could eliminate guards in seconds. The blonde continued on his way normally and calmly. The 10 high-ranking officials of the Barbados house who were among the guests attacked the blonde for having humiliated them. However, before they reached where the blonde was, a powerful energy hit them, sending them crashing against the walls, passing through it and remaining totally unconscious with serious energy. Everyone was shocked by that, but immediately they were even more surprised and began to break out in a cold sweat. Even the mouse began to break out in a cold sweat, and this was because the one who made those men fly away was another of the blonde's girls, but everyone could feel that tremendous power, and now that she does not hide her aura, everyone could identify her. Ofusu Riberos. They all thought at the same time without being able to believe it. At the head of all of them was none other than the dragon goddess of the infinite Ofusu Riberos. Everyone present unconsciously took a step back with quite a bit of fear except for Revel, who looked at everything with great surprise and value with his girls since they are always with Ophis. "What? What are you? Who the hell are you?" Heir Barbados asked with quite a bit of fear when he saw how the Dragon of Infinity is on Blonde's side, although more than one person asked themselves that question. Even the Gremry group and SYTRY were wondering what Ophis was doing with the blonde, although the SYTRY group was really surprised to know that they were talking and laughing calmly with an existence like her so calmly. When the blonde heard that question from the Barbados heir, a smile formed on his face, one that expressed great amusement, since what is going to happen is going to unleash a great change for the supernatural world. "Who am I?" said the blonde, standing in the middle of the room, and his girls who were behind him calmly although with a rather amused smile. 11. Allow me to introduce myself properly, the blonde said as he put one hand behind his back and the other on his chest, and a magic circle passed through his body, returning the now brown man to normal. Everyone present was speechless in a state of shock. Surzik and Ajuka couldn't say anything because of their surprise, just as literally all the guests were speechless. Sona, for her part, blushed furiously when she saw the appearance of the now brunette, while she felt like her heart was racing at how handsome and sexy he looked. Lord and Lady Phoenix were wide-eyed, unable to utter a word. But the most affected were 2 girls who couldn't stop looking at him as much as they could while their cheeks were completely red and tears ran down their faces. Revel and Seraphol were seeing the person they had longed for 10 long years. They were staring at him wishing that it wasn't a dream, that it wasn't an illusion, or that he wasn't an imposter. "My name is Issei," the current security and the true dragon god of chaos," the brunette said with a smile as a red gauntlet appeared on his arm. The entire room was completely silent, while the brunette had a smile on his face. None of those present could believe what they were seeing. In front of them was the person who was hailed as a hero, the one who sacrificed his life to save everyone. However, that sacrificing part wasn't entirely true, since he was now in front of them and with the security gauntlet. No one could tell that he was an imposter. Mixed feelings were being experienced by everyone present: fear, terror, love, happiness, hatred, and many more. Tiamat at that moment did not know what to think or what to say. The person she had been attracted to was really the security. In other words, Drake was in front of her. A great hatred the dragon began to feel just remembering that red dragon, but he didn't do anything, since the person who had Drake in his body is the person who had thought about trying something. But now he didn't know what to say or do. Lord and Lady Gremory felt great shame when they saw the one who was once going to become their son-in-law. At that moment, they remembered that when the brunette had left, they decided to look for a new candidate. And after a while of seeing how Razor comforted his daughter, they decided that now, with their new attitude, it was perfect. And from that moment, they did everything for the two to be together. And after a while, they achieved it, and they completely forgot about that brunette who saw them as parents. They felt ashamed because they knew that they had disappointed the brunette, since now they know that he was at his daughter's wedding watching her marry someone else, and they didn't say or do anything, but rather they were celebrating. Serzak and Ajuka could not believe the person who, despite his age, felt admiration for having saved them, whether it was Ajuka in the battle against Trihexa or Serzak for saving him from that dimension where he was going to die. But a thought passed through both mouths when they saw the brown-haired Mao alive. They immediately felt shame, mainly the green-haired Mao, since they had given him up for death years ago. In fact, Ajuka stopped investigating a way to bring him back. Shame was what the two Maos felt at that moment when they saw that Issei left that place on his own, and they felt more shame when they saw that not only did he live, but that now he is perhaps more powerful than the two, giving understand that he was not wasting his time. Lord and Lady Phoenix were both with their heads down. Neither of them said anything. They didn't even have the courage to look at the brunette's face, mainly Lady Phoenix. At that moment he remembered again what the blonde had told him that time. Memory. Lady Phoenix, this is not a threat, but I don't think Issei would like to see his fiancée married to another man when he returns, and I assure you that he didn't want to see what a dragon does when someone tries to separate his women. The blonde said seriously, so you better think about what you are going to do from now on, and I hope you choose the right decision. The blonde finished saying. End of memory. As a woman with a strong character, she now did not have the courage to raise her head from the shame she felt knowing that the brunette was always watching them. She even intervened so that we would not make a mistake, but even so, with her warning, we did not listen to him, and he committed it. Lady Phoenix felt like she had lost her entire face in front of the brunette, and even more so when she saw how her daughter looked at him with a dreamy look full of love. She was even sure that if she saw the brunette, she would see the same look in his eyes. He smiled bitterly, knowing that he was going to take away his only daughter's happiness just because of a whim of his clan. On Sona's part, she was staring at the brunette. Her heart did not stop beating. Her cheeks were extremely red and she did not know why. She knew that she liked the brunette and had feelings for the blonde, but knowing that they were both the same person made your mind be blank. At that moment he remembered everything that had happened with the brunette 10 years ago, those battles of life or death, those moments of laughter and fun, mainly those moments of calm tranquility with him. He remembered how he laughed. They played next to him, making her fall little by little in love with him. Seeing him fight with beings that surpass his powers made her feel very worried about his life. Seeing him protect with his life everything he loves and appreciates without caring about anything made her feel extremely protected. It even made her heart beat every time she saw him like that. And yet he didn't know what to do with his feelings, since just by seeing him he had problems with his harem, since everyone was fighting to be with him, making his time with him extremely short and making him unable to confess what he feels. Afterwards she had sacrificed herself to save all the leaders of the factions without asking for anything in return, an act that anyone would find honor, while for her that act had captivated her, and after seeing that she had managed to save her sister the love and appreciation for he grew great mind. But after years he did not return, although he still felt all that for him. He thought that since he would not return, making him sad, he gave himself a chance with his pawn Sanji to overcome those feelings, but their relationship from beginning to end was bad since he was not that person who had fallen in love. When he thought that there would be no one who could replace him and his situation was really bad, not to mention probable, he arrived. That blonde who without any reason or circumstances had extended a hand to her, and even though she had taken the entire arm, circumstances had extended a hand to her, and even though she had taken the entire arm, he simply smiled at her and let her take it without asking for anything in return. He helped her get out of that situation where no one helped her, and she managed to stabilize herself, but it didn't end there. But he even gave her the other hand to help her move forward, and thanks to him her now long-awaited dream was rising from below with strength. And if that were not enough, he goes very often to see if there is a problem, and every time there is one he quickly solves it, making his beloved academy become stronger and stronger. That kindness and honesty were making her fall in love again. Those talks, those laughs that she shared with the blonde made her feel alive after 10 years of not smiling or laughing with sincerity or honesty. He realized that what he felt for the blonde was love, and he was reluctant to confess to him, even if he knew that he had others, since when he saw his queen and saw the others so happy and without fights, he realized that he was a shoulder capable of doing a truly happy woman even when she has more of them. And I confirm that when I see the smiling face that her queen always had. But everything changed at her friend's wedding. When she saw the problem with Revel, she immediately supported everything without caring about anything. But things got harder and were getting out of control. At that moment he arrived, the whole situation was reversed, leaving everyone speechless, making him respect himself like a man and making them respect the blonde phoenix. Sona watched as the blonde picked up Revel and took her to the blonde's mother, her curiosity blossoming, thinking what he was going to say. But when those words came out of his mouth, his heart was beating strongly, and it was not from love but from anxiety, since the blonde, in other words, had said that his beloved brunette was alive. He even said that he could be at that moment. My heart was beating hard knowing that, and anxiety invaded me, making those feelings for the brunette reappear, but for some reason they were stronger. After that moment he decided it was better to properly clarify his feelings, since he did not want the same thing to happen with Sanji in his relationship with the blonde. So he spent all his free time clarifying those feelings. But she never managed to clarify them, since every time she was going to decide one, the other's feelings appeared, making her feel insecure. At least until now, since today I was going to do Revel Phoenix's wedding, making her feel useless because she couldn't do anything. At the party, the blonde's girls appeared and I stayed talking to them. I discreetly asked Tsubaki if something was happening now. That they all had a funny smile. At that moment she told me everything that was going to happen. I was surprised, but I was very happy that Revel was not getting married, since anyone who knows her would know that she is madly in love with Issei. 15. The wedding went on normally until it happened. The blonde she loved had come to prevent it, her heartbeat seeing him so firm, making his very presence worthy of respect and power. But then I saw how that blonde revealed who he really was. My astonishment had no place in me. He had been simple all along. His heart was in turmoil as the feelings he had for the blonde combined with those of the brunette, causing him to grow a great love for the brunette. At that moment he couldn't help but smile, knowing why he couldn't choose one over the other, since they were both the same person. He had fallen in love with the same person twice. That caused his smile to grow, and now with more courage he decided to be by her side and confess his feelings, those feelings that he has kept for 10 long years. Rias Gremry is a person who has never regretted her decisions. She always remains firm to her decision, and she has passed that on to her entourage, but now they all had a very bad expression, while tears ran down their cheeks, and they felt how their chests hurt, who were breathing heavily. All of this was because at this moment, a little far from them, was the person they loved so much. All of them wanted to run out to hug him and kiss him, but something didn't stop them. Rias, Aquino, Asia, Zenobia, Kaneko and Kunu, all of them could not move, rather it seemed that their bodies prevented them from doing so. Desperately trying to get closer to the man they loved so much while tears ran down their cheeks. But none of them took a single step. At that moment they all felt someone holding their hand. Asia again saw her boyfriend Dithum, Zenobia with her boyfriend Lu, Kaneko and Kunu with her husband Yasuko, Akino with her fiancé Zaston, and mainly Rias with her now husband Razor. All of them were looking at them with an expression of discontent, anger but also sadness, making each of them speechless. Then they all remembered all the conversations that could lead to this result. Memory. What happens if Issei-kun comes back? Yusaku said to her daughters, Kunu, Kaneko. What will he say when he comes back and finds that you are with someone? Sona told her friends, Akino. What happened to the feelings they had for Haida Issei? Griselda asked the reincarnated angels, Asia, Zenobia. What will you tell him when he finds out that you are married? Sona, Rias said calmly. End of memory. At that moment they understood what a big mistake they had made. Rias didn't want to believe it. She still couldn't believe that the person in front of her was the person who loved her and had given her life to protect them. It was always okay. All the memories he had lived with him began to arrive, those memories that he had put aside and forgotten to continue with his life. A pain like no other began to invade his entire being. He didn't know what to do, now that his beloved brunette was in front of him. He didn't want to let him go for anything in the world, but for some reason his body didn't move. It's like he understood that that was no longer his place, and he couldn't be there anymore. With the more tears ran down her cheeks as that idea began to form stronger and stronger, making her deny it stronger and stronger. But she was not the only one, since Akino, Asia, Zenobia, Kaneko and Kunu were the same as Rias. But when they saw the men who were next to her, what they could do at that moment, their bodies had already accepted that they could not be next to him of Issei, but their minds and their disordered feelings flatly refused to let them go. On the other side of the room was Seraphal, who could remove her astonishment, since in front of her was the only man who had made her feel like what she really was, a woman and not a trophy or a prize. Since that man had never seen her that way since she met him, he had always seen her as a woman, since when talking to him or spending time with him, he had realized that he had never sought fame. The only thing he was looking for was someone with whom to feel calm. And incredibly, she always felt that way when she was by his side. The small meetings, the small talks, the small walks, the small laughs, everything she had experienced with the brunette were small things, but for her they were invaluable moments. The problem was that she had never realized it, until that same shoulder had saved her from certain death, and she had sacrificed herself so that she would be well. Memories come to his mind, those memories that have tormented him for 10 years, since he had always blamed himself for the fact that the fate that Issei suffered was his fault. At night, she always cried, remembering that warm and calm feeling she felt when the brunette hugged her. That feeling of protection she felt when she was hugged by him was something she always wanted to feel again, but she knew it was impossible. No one ever made her feel just for a hug, and the only person was no longer within reach. That way the nights became lonely and cold while she hugged herself and cried for that feeling of loss. She still remembered those words that made her realize that she had fallen in love with that person. Memory. You know something, Seraphal-sama. I heard from Sona that because of your way of being she embarrasses her. Although she also told me that that is a part of you, she wouldn't change it for the world. Besides, Seraphal-sama, I don't want to get into her private life. But I also know that you have never gotten a boyfriend because of your happy and pampered manner, and those who approach you are the men who only see you as a trophy or an achievement for having the Mao as your girlfriend, the brunette said calmly. Seraphal is so surprised by how well informed he is, but also blushes so much knowing what she is like and what has happened to her. Issei just looks at her and smiles as she thinks about how cute she looks like that. You know what I think? I think you are a wonderful woman with your way of being so active, happy and pampered. I think any man would love to have a woman like that, so he can pamper her as much as he wants while he observes how beautiful you are at the same time. See those beautiful violet eyes? The brunette Mao told him while he caressed her cheek lovingly. End of memory. Her heart beat strongly as she remembered those words where they were engraved in her heart. Since then, she always longed to be pampered by that man who made her feel special and unique, while she felt that love and affection that those words he told her had. But at this moment, her body wanted to move, but she couldn't. She was paralyzed, but more than that, it was as if she was afraid of rejection, afraid of not being able to be with him, afraid of not deserving to be by his side. She looked at the brown man who was looking at her at that moment. Her eyes moistened when she saw that man who smiled at her in the same way as that time. Her heart beat a 1,000 per hour while she felt that love and affection that he gave off with just her look when you see it. At that moment he felt how that person was telling him to stay by his side with his gaze. The fear he felt at that moment disappeared. A great warmth ran through his entire being as he began to take a few small steps in the direction of the person he was in. He had won her heart. However, her steps were small, making it so that no one would notice that she was moving, and it wasn't her wanting to walk like that, but rather her body was telling her to slowly, to enjoy the sensation that ran through her body with every step she took. At the altar was the fourth daughter of the Phoenix family, Revel Phoenix. Her life had always been very simple and easy. Being the daughter of one of the noble house, her life had always been the center of attention, making her a little arrogant. Since she was also the darling of her parents and siblings, she had always wanted to meet her Prince Charming, the person who would love her and protect her from everything. On a normal day for her, she had found out that her brother had gone to visit his fiancée, but she was surprised when that day her brother not only called her but his entire entourage. When she arrived, she could see the Gremry heiress with her nobility, at least until a brown boy interrupted and they gave her what she deserved. But however, she never thought that the person she considered inferior, that meeting would be the beginning of how her life will change radically. That time they had challenged her brother in a rating game. That was where she was able to talk to that boy who she saw as inferior. But she had to admit that he was brave. However, it didn't matter that towards that boy the result had happened as planned. On the day of the wedding, I was happy because my brother was getting married. However, I never expected that same boy to interrupt, especially saying those embarrassing words, but for some reason I blushed when I saw the bravery and courage that boy had. There was a fight between my brother and that boy. I saw how that boy fought with my brother, surprising me to see him trying so hard. At that moment, I didn't know why he had done that. I watched as he was going to give the final blow to my brother. I didn't want that, so he put me in the middle of that blow. However, I saw how he stopped in front of me. If you want to complain, then come. I will fight with you whenever you want. Those words intimidated me a lot. However, when I saw how happy my brother's ex-fiancée was, I understood that that boy had done all that for her, and he didn't care about anything, he just wanted to know the person he loved. For the first time I felt jealous of seeing that man do anything for the person he loved, or he also loved someone like that. My heart began to beat when I imagined myself in her position. After that time I made the decision to approach the man I considered a Prince Charming. Although at first I was very disappointed that he was a pervert with the way I got to know him, talking to him, while he fought with beings beyond my imagination, he always emerged victorious since he gave everything to protect his loved ones. A feeling formed in me for the first time, and after a long time I understood that I had fallen in love with that person whom I considered inferior but was nobler than me. When I was kidnapped, and I was rescued by him, that moment was where I fell completely in love with him, seeing him worry about me, seeing him defend me, seeing him fight for me for my well-being. My heart had fallen completely in love with him, and I couldn't be more comfortable. My life was happy even though I had to share it. I never cared. I just wanted to be with him. However, the happiness didn't last long. The great beast that everyone feared had been released, and although it was waxed by the leaders of the factions, they were about to die since it was very powerful. That boy who was completely in love had offered to save them and exchanged his own life. He did not ask for fame, he did not ask for compassion, he did not ask for anything in return. He had done it because for him, it was the right thing to do, one life in exchange for many. I felt my heart tighten with pain knowing that I was going to lose him. I didn't want him to leave. I wanted him to stay by my side. He approached me and kissed me. That kiss, I could feel all the love and affection that he had for me. A tear ran down my cheek as I hugged him and continued kissing. I didn't want to let him go. I didn't want him to leave, but I couldn't do anything. He was gone, but I still remembered and recorded very deeply the words he said to me back then. Don't worry, he's going to be fine, and wait for him because he'll be back. I decided with all my strength to wait for him. I trusted that he was going to come back. I didn't care about anything else. I didn't care about what they said. I always stood firm waiting for the person to whom my heart had completely given itself. Even despite the years, I never doubted, I never hesitated, I never said anything because I knew he was going to come back. At one point, 10 years had already passed, and even though I had committed myself by force, I never doubted that he would come to save me. In my heart, I knew that he would not allow me to marry anyone other than him. I became desperate when my wedding arrived because I didn't want to marry him. I only wanted to be with one man. So I thought about how to cancel it, but nothing occurred to me. Until that blonde arrived, where he offered a hand with a smile. A little distrustful of that guy, I accepted the help. Her great friend, Lupe, confirmed that that blonde knew how to cancel the wedding. That made me extremely happy. When I realized that he knew my beloved Issei, I completely trusted him. And at Rias Grammar's wedding, my heart didn't stop beating when he had said those words. Reconsider the commitment between this beautiful lady and the bastard who is lying there, since she by right and king that ye yourself signed. She is hild Issei's fiancée, said the blonde seriously. I wanted everyone to know it. I wanted to shout it out because of how happy I felt. She was hild Issei's fiancée and no one else. On the day of my wedding, my best friends Lupe and Irina arrived and told me that everything was almost ready, so I went to the wedding calm and with a smile, knowing that everything was going to happen. When I saw Bozo was finishing, the person who was waiting for the blonde arrived to stop him. A smile formed on my face, although I was a little worried when they attacked him, but seeing how the girls, his true friends, easily defeated them calmed me down. But when that blonde revealed who he really was, my heart was beating hard as if it wanted to come out of me. Tears were forming in my eyes with signs of coming out. That was that the person who was in front of me was nothing more and nothing less than the person she had waited for with great love and devotion for 10 long years. Hild Issei, the only man who had stolen her heart and made her happy with a simple smile or a simple kiss. He had arrived. Her Prince Charming had arrived to take her away and have her stay by his side. At that moment, time stopped for me. I felt like everything around me stopped, and the only thing that mattered was the person in front of me looking at me with a calm smile and a look of pure love that made my heart race faster. At one point I saw how he looked away. I followed his gaze to see that he was looking at the mouse Serafal, who had the same expression as mine. At that moment I remembered how she was one of those who suffered the most with the loss of him. I saw how she began to walk slowly, getting closer and closer to him. I didn't want to be left behind. I didn't want him to leave again. I didn't care if he went to the same place. I didn't want to get away from him. I started to go down from the altar little by little. For some reason, I couldn't run, but I don't care as long as I can get closer to him and be with him. At that moment everything came back to itself. It was as if time was running again. Seeing that person who was hailed as a hero left more than one person silent and not knowing what to do. But everyone saw how the mouse Serafal walked faster and faster in the direction of Issei. But she was not the only one, since Revel Phoenix was also walking towards him. At that moment, the brunette raised his arms as if waiting for them to reach his arms, which none of them doubted, and at that moment, their bodies began to run towards those arms that they had longed for so much. They wanted to feel loved and protected again. They wanted to be surrounded by that great pure love that their beloved Issei showed them. At that moment, Serafal ran into the arms of the person she had fallen in love with, the person who stole her heart. She did not realize that when she passed by the Gremmeries group they wanted to stop her. But at that moment her fan felt that hug was more than anything existing in the world that passed by them without being able to do anything. He took a big leap in the direction of the brunette, pushing himself on a chair that was in his way while he opened his arms to hug him. The brunette with a quality smile received her with open arms, causing her to do a complete turn due to the impulse. But when the pig-tailed mouse felt that hug, she immediately began to cry without caring that they were watching her. She felt happy. A feeling invaded her heart. After 10 years, she felt alive, she felt warm. That feeling was what she longed for, making her bury her head deeper. On Revel's part, she had run away, passing through the guests, even passing through her family, who looked at her in surprise, since at that moment when she passed by them, she did not even look at them, since her gaze was only on Issei. But what surprised them most was seeing how she was crying but had a big smile on her face that no one of them had ever seen, not even her mother, who, upon seeing her, felt the worst, knowing that that smile was her true smile. Her precious daughter that smile that she had lost due to her ignorance and pride. Revel continued running when she was arriving where her lover saw how Seraphal jumped and arrived first before her. He also saw how she immediately began to cry when he hugged her. A feeling formed in her, and she ran faster to be able to feel that same sensation. When she arrived, she also jumped with open arms, being received by a brunette who received her with a hug, making her also take a turn even with Seraphal in her arms. The blonde phoenix, as soon as she felt those hugs, began to cry inconsolably alongside the Mao, who was also crying inconsolably. Issei only smiled with nostalgia and love as he hugged both girls, trying to comfort them, telling them to forgive him for leaving you alone, or I'm here and I'm never going to leave you again, making them cry more instead of reassuring them. Strong and hold on tighter to him. The brunette smiled at that and decided it was better to keep quiet and give them all the love he had not been able to give them. Everyone saw that scene with a lump in their throat. No one was stupid since that moment was very special for both him and them. However, the Gremmy group saw that scene with tears in their eyes. Their bodies could not move. They also wanted to run out and hug him so they could feel again that warmth that the brunette made them feel when he hugged them. But they still could not understand. Because their bodies didn't allow it, the pain in their chests began to grow stronger and stronger, making them cry even more for not being able to calm that feeling of price, loss, and pain. Damn! A voice was heard coming from the altar. This was the Barbados heir who had recovered a little. Everyone looked at him with clear signs of discontent since this was a moment that was going to mark everyone naturally, since everyone's hero was alive and had appeared in front of everyone. I won't let you get away with this, a stupid dragon like you. You're nobody, said the Barbados heir, totally overwhelmed by anger, without even paying attention to Issei since he was totally focused on the two girls who were there. He had managed to calm them down a little, but they still hugged him possessively with clear signs of not letting him go very soon. Guards, kill all of them, declared the heir Barbados, calling all the guards of his family, and in a moment the place and its surroundings were full of guards prepared to attack. Everyone present was surprised by the rapid deployment, but in a moment they understood that the Barbados family had their troops hidden and all over the place. However, Issei was still in the same pose with the two girls hugging him tightly. Even his girls who had seen everything had a calm smile without worrying about the soldiers. Although Kiryu had a certain feeling of jealousy when seeing the two girls that way with the brunette, since some time before he began to develop a certain feeling for him, the Barbados heir had an arrogant smile thinking that he had won. When all that is over I will rape that damn bitch. I would love to hear how she screams your name while I make her mine, said the Barbados heir with an arrogant smile. However, that was his biggest mistake since he had touched the reverse scale of a dragon. A powerful aura much stronger than before began to be felt throughout the place, causing the entire room to become completely silent. That aura became bigger and bigger with each second passing, making everyone start to tremble with fear at feeling such a powerful aura. Even Surzek and Ajuka were trembling with fear. Not even when they were in the civil war, in that war field, did they feel as much fear as they do now. Everyone present immediately fell to the floor upon feeling that aura and even began to faint. Only the girls and Issei were fine since that aura did not affect them. However, Tsubaki, upon seeing her king who was about to fall to the ground due to the pressure, quickly rushed to her and along with Lupe and Elman hild surrounded the Citri group and created a barrier, making them all stop feeling that suffocating pressure. The Citri heiress who stopped feeling that aura was surprised by that. But when she looked up she saw that she was being surrounded by a barrier. She was surprised to see her queen, who was one of the three girls who was training her. Sona was going to say something but realized that the three girls were very serious, looking at where the brunette was. What's wrong? The Citri heiress asked her queen, who had a very serious expression more than normal. Issei-kun is very angry because of what I said. Now not even we can stop him. Queen Citri answered her king, who was surprised. She wanted to ask him many things, but seeing Lu Fei and Elman hild who were just as serious, she decided better keep silence. Everyone in the room was too impressed to feel that powerful aura. There was no one who was not trembling with fear from feeling that enormous power. And unlike the last time, this time Issei is using his and Drag's power, making the aura is even more powerful than before. The Barbados heir who was at the altar was about to faint as he felt his entire body trembling uncontrollably. Ophis, who was close to the brunette, saw that what was going to happen no longer had a solution, so she took the pig-tailed Mao and the blonde phoenix by one arm and took them to where the other girls were, although they still refused to leave the chest. Issei, with just one look from the dragon, they understood that something was going to happen. The brunette began to walk towards the altar while his hair covered his eyes. "How dare you!" A voice was heard throughout the place that made everyone shiver, since from those words you could feel a great, murderous instinct. "How dare you talk to her that way?" Everyone heard it again. Now they identified the voice as that of the brunette. "I'll teach you that you shouldn't mess with the dragon's wife," the brunette said with an emotionless voice that made even Vala's blood run cold when he heard it. Even his girls clung to him out of instinct. The brunette stopped bringing out his aura, allowing everyone to move, but everyone was sweating from what had happened before. While walking, Issei took out Escalation in a quick moment, killing 6 guards who were blocking his way. Everyone was speechless when they saw that for 2 reasons. The first is because he had just killed the demon, and the second was because no one saw him move or swing his sword apart from the mouse and the occasional person. At that moment, the brunette didn't care at all and continued walking towards where the Barbados heir was, who was on the ground shaking with fear while crying. "They are waiting, kill him," said the leader of the Barbados house to all the other remaining troops. At that moment, all the soldiers came out of shock and went to attack Issei without knowing that this was their last and biggest mistake. The brunette stopped when he saw everyone coming to attack him. He got into a battle position and launched himself where everyone was coming from. However, Escalation began to shine a pure white color, which only the 2 mouse noticed. They were going to try to stop them, but it was too late. The brunette had taken out the sacred aura of Escalation. Since being a dragon, he was not affected by light. It was easier for him to manipulate his sacred power, and if we add that he also knows how to handle light, that makes him the aura increases to a great extent. Issei made a horizontal movement, killing several soldiers with a single blow. That left more than one person in a cold sweat as they could feel that powerful sacred aura. However, that did not end there, since in a moment he appeared behind another group of soldiers and swung his sword again, killing them on the spot. This fact left the demons in total shock that he could kill demons so easily. He turned to his side and for the 3rd time, he rushed to where a large group of soldiers was. When he reached them, he killed 3 with 1 thrust and then protected himself from 3 thrusts that they saw from his back. But when I blocked them, I used their strength to push them back, which I take advantage of to kill them quickly. In this way the battle was taking place. Although more than a battle, it was a massacre, since no soldier had been able to touch Issei man while he had already killed many of them. And in a short period of about 10 minutes the ground was dyed red, and at the feet of Issei there was a huge amount of dead soldiers, leaving everyone speechless. In just about 10 minutes he had trained a small army without breaking a sweat. The few soldiers who were alive began to retreat involuntarily. Some had even already escaped since they did not want to die. However, despite the amount of blood there was, the brunette, who had white pants, a black shirt and a white vest, there was not a tiny drop of blood on him. Even his sword was shiny as if he had done nothing. That fact made more than one tremble with fear due to the demonstration of power. However, the brunette did not get upset with anyone and began to walk towards where the Barbados heir was, who was still on the ground crying while his body did not stop shaking. However, something new had happened, and it was that he had urinated with fear when he saw how his soldiers killed without breaking a sweat. The brunette continued calmly. None of them moved a muscle. They did not want to die. Even the 2 mouse were not sure they would survive if they faced the brunette. But what stopped them from doing anything was the look that the brunette had, since it was that of a very angry dragon, and everyone knew that when a dragon was like that, it was best to leave it and not approach it. Issei climbed the small steps that reached the altar and stopped in front of the Barbados heir, who looked at him with utmost horror. The brunette crouched down and grabbed the Barbados heir by the neck, lifting him up with great ease. All of this was seen by everyone present. Issei girls were calm since they knew what was going to happen. However, in the case of Revel and Seraphal, they were very surprised to see how powerful their lover was, since before they were extremely worried when the soldiers of the Barbados house, they attacked him and they were even going to help them, but they were stopped by the other girls. "I told you more than once not to mess with her," the brunette said loudly and clearly, making everyone listen to him. "Alberti told you more than once," the brunette continued to say while the aforementioned man was trying to get out of his grip, failing in the attempt. However, you didn't pay attention and continued with your stupid pride, said the brunette with quite annoyance in his words. The parents of the Barbados heir wanted to go help them, but none of them could move for some reason. But after a few moments they realized why. They were afraid. You ignored all the compassion and face I was giving you. You even insulted my fiancé in my presence. When the brunette said that, the blonde phoenix had her cheeks blushing but with a big smile on her face, and her heart was beating fast. On behalf of Lady Phoenix, when she heard those words, only lowered her head and closed her eyes while blaming herself for the mistake she had made, and ultimately Lord and Lady Barbados were very sorry for having continued with this wedding. Back then, when the blonde had warned them in Rias Gremery's wedding was better to dare to leave things like that. But out of their pride they had condemned their family, since too many of their family soldiers had died today, and it was most likely that their son was going to die because of what he had said before. At that moment, they closed their eyes and clenched their fists, feeling frustrated that he got into this situation because of his stupid pride. The brunette created a hold of pure power in his hand. Everyone stepped back as they could feel the great concentration of power that small hold had. The Barbados heir, upon seeing this, began to despair and tried with all his might to break free of the hold. I don't care if you ask for mercy because you won't have it. Anyone who messes with one of my women will end up with only one destiny, death. When he said those words, everyone backed away again. The brunette put that sphere of energy in the chest of the Barbados heir, causing it to grow in size upon contact and consume him completely. 15. He did not even give the Barbados heir time to scream when he had been consumed by that powerful energy, completely disappearing. The Barbados heir had died at the hands of the current Security and next dragon god. The place was completely silent. No one said anything. The brunette returned to his previous attitude, making the entire room calm, letting go of that tension in the air. He turned and walked down the altar to go where his girls were. However, when he was coming down he was greeted by Revel and Sarah Fall, who now that everything was over did not want to leave their loved one's side. The brunette, upon seeing this, only smiles to caress their heads, making each one hug him harder, as he feels that feeling that he had longed for so much. Issei-kun, you know what it means to kill a domain. The red-haired Mao broke the silence. However, the brunette didn't even take it into account since he was still caressing the heads of the girls who had him hugged. 11. The Gremery group, upon seeing how the brunette caressed the two girls' heads, felt extremely jealous since at first glance they could see the love with which he did it. They wanted to feel that same love, that love that they had forgotten years ago, but deep in their hearts they knew that they could never have it again, although they still refused to accept it. 20. You even killed an heir of the house, you know what that means, right? The red-haired mouse said again seriously. For his part, the brunette simply took out some envelopes from his vest and threw two at the red-haired Mao and the other at Lady Phoenix. They were both confused by that action and turned to see the brunette, who was still caressing the girls' heads. The letter from Lady Phoenix, and one of the ones you have, Sir Zek, is a letter signed in the handwriting of you and me, clarifying that Revel Phoenix is my legitimate fiancé and absolutely no one has the permission to say otherwise since it is signed by the entire demonic council. When the brunette said those words, everyone was surprised by what he said. Immediately, Lady Phoenix and Sir Zek opened the letter quickly to confirm those words. It was not that they did not believe him, but to see if it was true that the councillors really signed them. Everyone approached the two people to see if it was true, since that fact was very rare since everyone knew what the old elders were like. When the blonde phoenix heard that, her heart began to beat rapidly as she looked at her lover with tears in her eyes. Seeing her like this, he gave her a sincere smile full of love. I said it before, you are Hayato Issei's fiancé, and no one can change that fact. I hope you are happy to become my wife very soon, the brunette said with a smile, while the phoenix had a lump in her throat. Tears ran down her cheeks without being able to control them. How could she not be happy? He was the person who was madly in love. He was the person who had stolen her heart, had arrived and declared him as his. He was the person she had fallen in love with. How she was not going to be happy to be his fiancé. He was the man who had saved her before, had protected her from all evil and had saved her just now from a life of suffering. He was her Prince Charming, That man who came to protect her, that man she loved. The blonde phoenix couldn't take it anymore and kissed the brunette, to which he was surprised by that action, but after a few moments he reciprocated that kiss. Revel didn't care that they were looking at her. In fact, she didn't care at all. The only thing that mattered to her was showing this man in front of her that she loved him madly. The brunette held her waist with one hand and pulled her to him, while she wrapped her hands around his neck, deepening that act of love. The spectators saw that scene and they all had different reactions. On the one hand, the women were jealous since the brunette was someone extremely handsome and attractive, as well as very strong and above all overprotective. How could they not be jealous? On the part of the men, they had various opinions. Some jealousy for having beauties by his side, others respect for what he did. Lady Phoenix, seeing that kiss, confirmed her thoughts again. She had made a big mistake. She almost took away her daughter's happiness just because of her selfishness and pride. Seeing that kiss that exuded pure love made her realize how bad she was as a mother. On the part of the Gremry group, they were dying of jealousy. They also wanted to kiss him, they wanted to hug him, they wanted to be by his side, but their bodies did not move, making it impossible for any of them to move in the direction of Issei, and they could only watch while they cried. How that couple showed their love in front of you. The couple separated from that kiss that carried all the feelings of both that they had kept for years. I would be one of the happiest women in the world to be your wife. No longer I am one of the happiest women in the world just by having you by my side, said the blonde phoenix with a big smile, while tears ran down her cheeks. The happiness I had. Note, she said one because she knows that all the other girls who are with the brunette have the same feeling of happiness as her, the feeling of being able to be with the person they love. The brunette gave him a smile at those words. He really felt lucky to have women who loved him so much. Although he didn't know what he had done to deserve them, he was going to do the impossible to make them happy. For Sarah Fall's part, she also wanted a kiss from her lover, but even she knew that it was not the time, so for now she settled for hugging the person her heart found worthy to feel his warmth and love in her embrace. The other letter you have, Sir Zack, is a warning to all those present that anyone who interferes or wants to take my fiancée Revel Phoenix will be immediately taken as a traitor and will be executed on the spot. The brunette informed all those present, who opened their eyes. If that news was true, all the deaths of the soldiers and the death of the heir of the Barbados house were justified when trying to separate Revel Phoenix from her legitimate fiancé Hyde Isaac. At that moment, the Barbados family felt like a bucket of cold water fell on their heads. They understood that from the beginning this wedding could never take place. Even if their now deceased son had gotten married, the wedding would have been false, so to speak. The red-haired male who was holding the second letter could not help but be surprised by this fact, and the worst thing was that it was also signed by the entire demonic council. At that moment he wondered what Issei man had done to achieve this fact. Well, once this matter has been clarified, I no longer have anything to do here, so if you'll excuse me, I'll leave, said the brunette, walking with the two girls still hugging him as he reached where his other girls were. On Tsubaki's side, Lupe and Elman, who were separated from the others, began to go to join the others. Sona saw how her queen went to where the brunette was going. She wanted to tell him that she was going to go with her, but something stopped her. Then she felt a look and realized that it was the brunette who was smiling at her. The color rose to her face while his heart beat rapidly from that action. Now that his feelings were clear and had become stronger, any action he did to her would have more effect on her. The Citri heiress looked away, trying to control her blush and trying to control her breathing, something she failed to do, making the brunette from afar see that action and think that seeing her embarrassed made her look really pretty. When I get to where the others are, I create a circle to leave. By the way, said Issei, drawing the attention of everyone present. Sir Zack, you have an alliance meeting in a week. It is time to clarify your doubts and for them to know certain things, too, said the brunette, looking at the redhead. It is time for the world to know that the Securidai has returned again from death, and this time stronger than ever, said the brunette with a smile as he stood in a magic circle, leaving everyone with the same thought. The Securidai has returned. Everyone present thought, now the world was going to change, since now the hero of all the factions had returned, and he had returned with a power capable of easily eliminating them. Human world. Hyde Mansion. The brunette had arrived home not long. At this moment, He was in the living room while hugging Revel and Seraphal, who did not want to let him go, while the other girls, some of them were making dinner and others had gone to change to be more comfortable. Don't worry, girls, now that I'm here, I'm not going to separate from you, ever again. I will always be by your side. You promise, Issei-chan? Seraphal said with a tone of supplication. The brunette knew that she was one of those who had suffered the most from her loss. With her arm, she lifted her chin and gave her a kiss, surprising the pig-tailed Mao for what he was doing. But after a few moments, he let himself go and returned the kiss, having felt all the love and affection in those kisses. After they ran out of air, they stopped. Although the pig-tailed Mao had a big blush while she breathed heavily from that kiss that made her feel alive and loved, never in all her years of life had she felt something like that. She couldn't take it anymore and kissed her beloved again, but he kissed her back. The couple continued doing their thing, showing their love for each other, while on the other side was Revel with her eyes closed lying on her lover's leg. She knew that they were kissing and for some reason she didn't care. She was too happy to be with her loved one again, who did not mind sharing it with anyone as long as she can be by his side. In addition, she was relaxing while she felt how the brunette caressed her head slowly and lovingly, while with the other she had the Mao hugged, deepening her section of kisses that the Mao did not want to stop for anything in the world. I love you. It was the only thing the Mao said in a whisper after separating from a kiss. It was not a lie. She had fallen deeply in love with him. I love you too, my beautiful Mao, said the brunette while he gave her a smile full of love and gave her a caress on her cheek, causing the Mao to have a tear run down her cheek when she heard those words that were simple for her. It was a dream, but what had really brought that tear to her was feeling that love and affection with which he said it. There was no falsehood, there was no interest, there was no lust, there was nothing. The only thing there was love, a pure and sincere love that made the street Mao even deeper into that abyss that she called love and that she never wanted to leave. She was madly in love with the brunette just with those words, since before she loved him that was something she couldn't deny, but after feeling those kisses and hearing those words that were loaded with love say, she couldn't help but fall even more in love with him. What was already there, and she was happier than ever since back then when he had saved her she could feel that love and affection with which the brunette spoke. But now, having him in front of her without the danger of that time and in a calm environment, she couldn't help but feel extremely happy to be one of the people who can be at the side of a man as wonderful as he was. The mouse smiled sweetly and hugged the brunette tightly while she lay on his chest so he could pamper her and let herself feel loved and cherished by him. After dinner they all slept in the special room, but they were all in their pajamas or comfortable clothes to sleep, since today they all wanted to sleep peacefully with the man they love. But when they go to make love they sleep naked after doing so, since they also know that Issei watches them and appreciates them when they sleep like this, making them feel happy and proud that he watches like this, since he does it with love and not with lust. As if they were the most beautiful thing in the world. However, there were too many for everyone to hug her, and when she saw some girls who were sad, that's why she came up with the great idea. Note: they also use the special room to sleep, but they do not sleep naked, since the brunette had told them that they looked very beautiful in their pajamas, so when they only go to sleep, they put them on. This one used two clones that when the girls who couldn't hug the original saw it, they pulled each of them and used it as a pillow. They fell asleep happily since it was like having the original. However, in the night, the brunette woke up and felt that someone was missing, so a quick scan revealed that his reincarnated angel was missing. But he was also surprised to see Kiryu sleeping peacefully on the chest of one of his clones. He carefully removed Seraphal and Revel from his arms and carefully moved Ophis, who was asleep, on his chest. He couldn't help but smile when he saw the girls sleeping. They looked even prettier in that state. He carefully left that room in search of his beautiful little angel, who he could sense in the backyard. He found her on a bench while watching the stars, since it was a clear night. The brunette went to her and hugged her from behind, causing her to hug his arms with a smile when she felt her lover's arms. I love you, the brunette whispered in the brunette's ear. Upon hearing it, her smile grew and a treacherous tear ran down her cheek. The brunette knew that with what happened today his beautiful angel was going to feel bad, since of all of them she was the only one who betrayed her, and since she saw what happened to Gremory she thinks that she had to be one of them. But he, Brown, even knowing this, knew that only with his love and with time could he remove that weight that his heart carries. No matter what happens, I will always love you, and that is something that no one can change, the brunette said again, causing more tears to come out of the brunette when she heard those words. So please don't blame yourself and don't leave me. I don't want to lose you, the brunette said with a little fear, since because of the brunette's guilt, she could get away from him. I want to be with you. I want to laugh with you. I want to cry with you. I want to love you, and above all, I want to start a family with you, the brunette said with all his love, so that the brunette felt how he feels. When Irina heard it, she began to cry. When she heard those words that had eliminated the doubts that her heart had, she closed her eyes and hugged her lover's arms tighter. I also love you, said the brunette with all her love, making the brunette shed a tear when he felt those great pure feelings of brunette towards him, those feelings that he had rebuked all his life, for I had finally let them out. I love you. I always have since the first day I met you. I have always been in love with you, Issei, the brunette said with all those feelings she had been holding back until now. I love you, my beautiful angel, and I have to apologize for never realizing those feelings you had for me, said the brunette, who stood in front of the brunette and gave her light caresses on her cheeks. But now that I know, now that you are with me, I promise that I will never leave your side, and I will do everything possible to make you happy and fulfill that promise we made as children, said the brunette as he approached little by little to Issei's lips. Memory. Issei, what would happen if I were a woman? Irene asked her best friend and secret lover. I don't know why you're asking, Issei answered and asked his best friend. Not for anything in particular, just curiosity. The brunette answered, but she immediately gathered her courage and said what she really wanted to say. Hey Issei, if I were a woman, would you marry me? Irina asked bravely, but Issei remained silent for a moment, making the brunette start to get nervous. I think so, that way we would always be together, the brunette answered innocently, making the brunette blush fiercely when she heard it. 11. Then you promise me that we will get married and start a family, the brunette said with determination, forgetting that the brunette thought she was a man. I promise you, the brunette said, innocently thinking that his friend was playing. However, for the brunette, when she heard those words, a really bright smile formed on her face. End of memory. When the brunette heard those words, that memory came to her mind while a tear of happiness ran down her cheek without realizing that her beloved brunette was about to kiss her. The brunette couldn't take it anymore and claimed the angel's lips as his own, causing her to be surprised when she felt them. But after a few moments, as that feeling of love filled her, she let herself be completely carried away. She didn't know when or how, but from one moment to the next, she was very excited. And while they were kissing, the brunette ran his hands all over the brunette's body, admiring every centimeter of her as if it were a masterpiece. However, the brunette had not realized that every time he caressed the brunette's body, he was exciting her, since her body was very sensitive to that type of slow and detailed touch. When they separated, the brunette was extremely red when she saw her lover with that smile after having explored her body with her clothes. But an idea came to mind: what would happen if he explored her body without clothes? Without clothes, he left her in that state without clothes. The brunette was immediately surprised by her thoughts, and with the fear of thinking that she had fallen because she had such thoughts, this one took off her 4 pairs of wings. But she was even more surprised to know that these were still white and pure. The brunette smiled because of the brunette's concern, and without warning he kissed her again, to which the brunette was surprised but did not deny, since she wanted to continue feeling those lips that drove her crazy. Your faces are still white because your feelings reflect pure love, in the same way that I am showing you my pure love, by running my hands over your body, and no time did I do it out of lust, but because I wanted to admire and save every part of being so wonderful that you are, said the brunette when he separated from the kiss with the brunette, who was surprised to hear that. She immediately launched herself to where her lover was and began a section of kisses of pure love, that love she has had since she was a child. The brunette received her with a hug and returned every kiss that the brunette gave him with the same love that she gave them. However, when they separated, the brunette was extremely blushing. Please, please, I want to be yours, the brunette said with great shame, to which the brunette didn't say anything else, and just lifted the brunette in his arms and went inside the house while carrying the brunette in the form of a princess, and without stopping kissing since the brunette felt a little afraid of what was soon going to happen and her lover's kisses calmed her so much. The brunette continued without stopping until he reached his room. He opened the door and verified that it closed properly. He put the brunette on the bed without separating himself from her lips. This room and the special room are equipped with the same system that heaven had invented so that the angels would not fall after doing that. The brunette clarified once he had separated himself from the soft and sexy kisses of his beloved angel. I am 100% sure that even if we were not in this room, you would not fall since we both love each other, and I know that there will not be lust but love, but for you to be calm, it will be better to be here, said the brunette with a smile, to which the brunette smiled happily, knowing that her lover took her feelings and insecurities into account. Once said that, Irina continued kissing him. She knew that she was going to do it with all her love, but she was a reincarnated human. Despite her great faith, she was not sure if she could let go of the occasional feeling of lust after all. He was not a pure angel, and he knew lust although he had never done that. Issei began with a few kisses that became more and more passionate each time, making the brunette not far behind and letting loose her deepest desires for the first time. The brunette began to go down little by little to her neck, giving her several kisses, making the brunette let out several light moans of pleasure, while the brunette tried the beautiful soft and smooth skin of his beloved girlfriend, causing him to let out light moans at every moment that made the brunette get excited. Issei walked away from the brunette and began to take off a shirt he was wearing, letting the brunette see his well-formed body, making her blush, and she couldn't help but pass her hand over his body, getting lost in the sensation every moment. What it felt like to touch the body of the man who was now his girlfriend and future husband. The next morning we can see all the people having breakfast. Only one brown head is missing, who was still asleep since their nighttime activities were too much for them. The brunette had gotten up to prepare breakfast for his loved ones as a sign of apology for leaving them in the middle of the night. They showed false anger only because they wanted to have breakfast on their lovers' laps, to which he gladly accepted. That way we see ourselves currently having breakfast peacefully with the blonde phoenix and the Mao with pigtails, who were sitting happily in the brunette's laps while he pampered them a little, making them feel like very happy minds. At that moment, a brunette enters the dining room with only a shirt that belonged to the brunette. All the girls had a malicious smile when they saw the angel reincarnated in that way, mainly Kuroka and Kiryu. Vala, it seems like you had a great time last night, Irina, Kiryu said when he saw his friend's state and saw that delicate smile. The angel blushed furiously when she heard that. From what you can see, you enjoyed it a lot, Naya, the Nakamata commented with an evil smile. The brunette wanted to run away from the shame she had. The other girls only smiled when they saw the brunette so embarrassed, and they also felt happy for her since they all knew that the brunette was still tormented by what had happened and now seeing the mark that they all share on the lower part of their necks. They were happy for her. It seems like someone really enjoyed their midnight snack, Ophis said when she saw the blows on the brunette's neck. And from what it looks pretty, Elman hild also said when she saw blowjobs on the brunette's legs. However, she smiled because she remembers that she had finished looking like her with blowjobs all over her body. That thought excited her for one moment. However, the brunette could see that and realized. A smile formed on his face at the thought of repeating what had happened in Romania. For Irina's part, she felt super embarrassed and wanted the earth to swallow her. All the girls were bothering her, even Tsubaki, who was the calmest of all, couldn't stop bothering her, and it was because all of them were happy that the brunette was now be one of them. During the time they were together, they all considered themselves very close, and compared to when the brunette was with the Gremry group, they fought and did not enjoy time with him because of those fights. They decided to join together and spend as much time as possible with their loved one. And they are glad that it worked since they always spent time with him, sometimes with other girls and other times they had private moments just with him. Furthermore, they realized that their loved one always cared about them, so if something happened to one of them, whether sad or angry, he would also be the same. So they decided that they would always help so that everyone would be well so they could see their loved one happy. The days passed normally, however. No one was going to fulfill their duties since they knew how the supernatural world must be with the appearance of Issei. However, Tsubaki did have to go since she was still the queen of Sona. However, to the queen's surprise, the Citri heiress did not ask her anything related to the topic. Even Kuroka and Ophis, who was going to teach, did not ask them anything about the brunette. That surprised the three girls a lot since they knew how the Citri heiress felt about the brunette. On the other hand, Sona didn't ask them anything because they knew they didn't want to talk about it. Plus, she still had her mind in chaos about what happened at the party, and now that she had feelings for the brunette, she didn't know what to do. Those feelings were too strong, making her not know how to handle them, and it was no wonder. After all, he was the same person who in the past made her smile and spend happy moments in addition to helping her and giving her encouragement whenever she needed it. And in the present, he was still the same after so long. When she was with him, she always smiled and spent happy moments with him. In addition, he helped her when she needed it most and gave her the encouragement she needed to move forward, if she couldn't deny that he was the man a woman would dream of being with. All of this was causing the Citri heiress great stress since she did not know what to do. She did not know how to approach the brunette and tell him what she feels, and even less so now that her sister, who, although she does not know about her, must be with the brunette without leaving him for even a minute. Another of the girls who did return to her duties was Elman, hild, who came every so often to see how her faction is doing and take care of it if there were problems. But in the case of Isaka, Irina, Revel and Seraphol stayed in Issei's house spending moments with him since they knew that the supernatural world was fit with Issei's revelation. Yasaka didn't want to leave because she didn't want to face Kunu and Kaneko since she knew how they must be, and even though it hurt her, she knew that they have to face their decisions, and if she was there, she was going to ask her to take them to the brunette first, or she was going to complain to him because he didn't tell them anything. That's why she chose to stay home and wait for things to calm down. Irina stayed because she knew that at this point heaven must be crazy about the revelation of her beloved Issei, and she wanted to avoid what her king and the others were going to tell her. Revel simply stayed because she wanted to, since she had decided to stay and live with her lover to never be separated again. And with what happened at her wedding, she doesn't believe that anyone in the entire underworld and even her family would say anything with let him stay there, since they knew he couldn't be in better hands. She also realized that the company that has been gaining strength lately belonged to her lover, so she decided to help her and be her secretary. That way she could be with her lover at all times as well as help him when he needed it. Seraphol stayed because she didn't want to hear Seraphol say where her lover was, so that everyone would come and make a problem, and she also wanted to prevent the demons from starting to question her about what had happened. Luckily for her, she had dedicated herself to her work since it was like a consolation for the loss of Issei, and she had done enough work to spend about 2 or 3 weeks in peace, so she did not worry about her position. On Lu Fei's side, she simply stayed at home training or spending time with her lover. That was what made her extremely happy the moments she spent with him. She still didn't understand how he could make her feel that way. A simple hug or a simple kiss was enough to make her extremely happy. And let's not talk about when her beloved brunette pampered her. Those moments were something that fascinated her. The days passed very calmly but happily for the girls in Issei, since now he is rarely outside his house. He only went out to attend to company matters that with the help of Lu Fei and now Revel he resolved them quite quickly. So most of his time was spent with his girls, either training him or training them. However, most of his time was spent enjoying their company. He didn't need a talk, they didn't need anything. The simple fact of being next to each one made him feel extremely happy, and they didn't complain, since the simple fact of being next to their loved one made them very happy to feel the love that he left him for each one of them, making none of them want to get away from him. Mainly Revel and Seraphol, who are the ones who have been with Issei the least, did not want to separate themselves from him. However, the brunette has noticed in recent days how his dear friend clings to him more, and even seeks his company more often. That made him think if his dear friend was in love with him. However, it was not at all certain, or at least he thought that she was beginning to become interested in him. At that moment I thought that she was very beautiful, since Kiryu remembers that she was an extremely beautiful girl, not like Lu Fei, Revel or Elman, but she had a certain charm that caught the brunette's attention. However, it was just that was what he thought. That way he decided to get a little closer to her to see if that was what she felt, and to know what I felt. Time passed, and the day came when Issei was going to give an explanation to the leaders of the Alliance, since the supernatural world was in chaos when he knew that his greatest hero was alive, although there was only one person who knew nothing of this fact, and that person is the strongest woman in heaven. Gabriel had cleaned up in his room a little before the blonde phoenix's wedding, since this was the time when he had lost the brunette, causing him to always lock himself in his room at these times because of the sadness he felt. On the other hand, there was another person who had taken this news off guard, since it had caused her confusion to increase. It was Pennymew, who, upon knowing that the brunette was still alive, her heart began to beat strongly while a desire to be with him formed. Without, however, she was still confused, since those feelings were something she had never had and she couldn't understand them. The brunette prepared with all his girls to go to the underworld where the alliance meeting would take place. Underworld, City of Lilith. In Mao, Lucifer's something was taking place that could change the world again, and that was that today the person who once saved them all was going to appear and record his questions. In the castle, there was a special room for this event. In the center was a table, while on the walls there were balconies where other people could be, since the table was only for the representatives of the alliance. Outside this room, which was fully prepared, was the entire Gremry group without their respective partners, as they wanted to find an opportunity to talk to him. Ross was with her husband, since he knew that she wanted to see the brunette, and wanted to come accompany her, and also wanted to have a talk with him about his wife. There were also the Citri, Baal, Phoenix and Gremry families, although the last two did not feel very good being in the presence of the brunette, one supporting her daughter marrying another man and forgetting about him, and the other because she forced one of the most beloved person of Issei and his daughter to marry, leaving Issei for dead. The Citri group was there out of curiosity and because they wanted to see the brunette, although a certain blonde Citri did not know what to think or do, since the person he really hated was his best friend, and although he loved his king very much, he knew that it was impossible to be there with her. That's why it was better to get away from her and continue happy with his life with his wives. Surzek and his queen were waiting for him with Tiamat and Ajuka. All of this had him very intrigued as to how he got out of that place, and he also felt bad since he was the one who sent him there in the first place, causing his life to be ruined, or so. It was what he believed. On Heaven's side, Michael was alone with his brother Uriel, waiting for Issei to arrive. Of the fallen there was Azazel and incredibly Pennymew, who wanted to go see the brunette, and see if what he was thinking was true, and see if he made a decision about what he was going to do from now on. On Asgard there was only Odin and Arthur, who was his escort, since everyone in his factions was crazy. The men respected the brunette, making them want to fight him, and the women wanted to rape him, so it was better he decided to leave alone with his escorts so as not to make a scene. There was also Valley and his wives waiting to see what was going to happen, since for some reason it seemed funny to them to see how they were all going to ration, although it was also because the brunette had not told them everything and they were curious. At that moment, a large magic circle formed in the room, drawing the attention of everyone present. From that circle, the brunette came out with quite elegant clothing and a smile on his face. Behind him came all the girls he was with. The whole room was silent. They had already seen him, or at least those who were at the wedding, but actually seeing him again left them very surprised that he was really alive. The brunette looked around the room while smiling. Many of those present had not seen them. However, his gaze focused on a specific person. Pennymew tensed up when the brunette stared at her. She blushed furiously, and she doesn't know why. Maybe because those different colored eyes gave her a warm look, making her heart start to beat hard. She also couldn't deny that the brunette, he looked too handsome, and now that she saw him, he was no longer that boy she knew back then. He was now a fully grown man. Although she was not the only one who was blushing, since all the girls, not counting Lady Citri, Gremry and Phoenix, had a slight blush, she couldn't help but think that the brunette looked very handsome. And let's not talk about the younger ones, since the Gremry group was about to jump on Issei to eat it. According to them, Sona controlled herself as best she could, but her face was very red and she couldn't help it. About Ross, his heart was beating hard at that moment. He couldn't help but blush when he saw how handsome the brunette had become. On the other hand, Graphia was not saved from blushing despite her serious and cold countenance. You can see how her face was slightly blushing. This was seen by the brunette, who let out a slightly bitter smile. "It really hurts me to see you and not be able to be with you," the brunette whispered, but all his girls could hear him, making their gaze follow the gaze of their lover until they reached where the Graphia Lucifuge was. None of them were surprised by that fact since they knew that the brunette had certain feelings for Ross before some of them, since she was one of the people who always supported and cared about the brunette. With a relationship like that, not being able to develop those feelings, however, knowing that she was married with a child did absolutely nothing. Plus she saw him as a brother even though he didn't see her that way. Not to mention that the brunette didn't want to have problems with Milikas since before they got very well and he wanted it to continue that way. That way he didn't say anything about what he felt for Grafia and let that family continue happily. The brunette returned to his normal attitude and started walking while carrying Revel and Seraphal in each arm while they had a smile of total happiness. On the part of the Gremry group they felt great jealousy of that, but they also felt sad and depressed. I'm glad that everyone present is here today. Although some I didn't expect, they are welcome. What I'm going to have to tell you, said Issei, approaching where the leaders were. Issei, we need to talk, someone said when the brunette was going to speak again, interrupting him. The brunette turned his gaze to the side next to his wives who, upon seeing the sound of the voice, frowned since that person, who was nothing more than Rias Gremry, was next to him. The other girls, they didn't hate them, they didn't even care, they could even talk to them calmly, but it bothered them that the redhead was so insistent knowing that she is now married. But what bothered them was that the redhead still wanted her lover for herself. I'll see if I have time after the meeting since I'm a very busy person, said the brunette coldly without giving them a second thought. However, the Gremry group saw this as a ray of hope to fix things. They didn't care about the indifferent tone he said. Brown. For the brunette's part, he would take this opportunity to leave him alone and continue with his life, as well as to let him continue with his. The brunette began to get closer to the leaders who had heard the exchange. Although the redhead wanted to say something to the brunette for talking to his sister like that, he kept quiet knowing that he had no right to say anything after all. He also supported the wedding with him, Phoenix forgetting who was once like his little brother. I know everyone has a lot of questions, so how about we go into the room to answer all your questions? The brunette said, continuing to walk with his girls towards the room without letting the leaders answer anything. None of them said anything and just followed the brunette into the living room while the other people went to their respective places on the balconies. Once everyone was gathered, the room remained in deep silence. No one said anything. The brunette had sat in front of the alliance leaders. The girls and Issei were sitting next to their beloved. Only Yasaka, who took the place of the leader of the you guys with her daughter, and Seraphal, who reluctantly took the place as a Mao. The leaders wanted to talk but none of them said anything. They all felt bad for the brunette since they had forgotten him, leaving him to his fate after having saved all of them. Very well, let's start this, the brunette said, drawing the attention of everyone present in the room as he looked at them. In front of him were Surzek, Ajuka and Seraphal on the part of the demons, Michael and Uriel on the part of heaven, Azazel and Penyimu on the part of Grigori, and Odin on the part of the Norse. What's the first thing you want to know? The brunette asked directly. How come you're alive? Was the first thing the red-haired mouse said, while everyone present paid attention. During my fight against Trihexa, I realized that I was being controlled. Behind his head, he had a mental control device that Rise of him had put on him. When he released it, and when he saw me, he realized that in me, he had the powers of 2 dragon gods. He found it interesting and he let me live. Issei answered calmly, leaving everyone surprised by what they heard. Trihexa may be a being of destruction, however he is still a dragon. He always wanted his race to be the strongest. When he saw me, he realized that I had the potential to have the 2 energies of 2 dragon gods, so he left me alive. The brown-haired man anticipated the question he was going to ask, leaving more than one person even more surprised. How was it that Rise of him was able to control it? Michael asked, very interested, since being a being of tremendous power, it would be literally impossible to control it. When the Trihexa was sealed, its consciousness was separated from its body. That way it was easy for it to control it, since by not having consciousness it was only an empty body with tremendous power. Issei answered, leaving the leader of heaven surprised for that revelation. How did you escape? Ajuka asked because he was still upset with himself for not helping the brunette get out of that place. With the help of Lupe, I create the circle of Trihexa, and with the help of Ophis, I connect the dimensions since I also created his circle and teleported myself to this dimension," said the brunette, making a juka hit his head because he couldn't figure it out. A summoning had occurred before, although the procedure would have been quite complicated perhaps if he had succeeded. "What happened to the Trihexa?" I asked. "The very worried leader of heaven who was wearing her has now freed herself. She is still sealed in that dimension," the brunette answered calmly, making everyone take a breath since they did not want to face that fearsome being again. "But how did you come out if the seal was made so that the person who is inside that dimension has to be giving energy to the seal for it to remain?" the leader of heaven asked again, remembering that point. Everyone present also had that doubt. "I will answer that question last since I need to talk about a topic and that question is related to the topic." When the brunette said that, many people became curious but they left it because, as he said, he was going to answer it later. "Tell me, brat, how you became so powerful." Old Odin said with great interest. That once again caught everyone's interest since the brunette was, to say the least, extremely powerful and they had not yet seen all of his power. After freeing Trihexa and after seeing in me the energies of 2 dragon gods, he decided to train me since, for him, it seemed funny to see what would happen if he trained me, and since I was almost dead at that moment, I accepted since I couldn't lose nothing. He was going to die and if he wanted to he could kill me, so I didn't care much and accepted the training. When the brunette said that, the whole room was totally surprised by what even his girls had just heard, just mind you, Ophis and Lefay who knew about that topic. Thanks to the fact that I have a body made by the Great Red, I was able to withstand the hard training, and with the power of Ophis that I had in me, I was able to make my magical reserves increase enormously, making it possible for me to use magic easily, said the brunette with a smile while caressing the dragon's head while she was alone with her eyes closed, allowing herself to be pampered by her lover. She didn't care if they were seen, she only cared about her beloved and would never refuse a caress from him. That act made the Gremory girls extremely jealous. Even Kuna, who was watching that scene in front of her since she was at the center table, felt extremely jealous. On the part of the leaders, they were too surprised to see that scene since they never thought that the dragon goddess of infinity would be so affectionate. However, seeing Issei's smile and seeing the dragon's expressions, they realized that they both loved each other very much. A thought ran through the heads of some of them. On Sursika's part, he wondered if this was what the brunette and his sister would be like if they were together. After a breath, he looked covertly at where she was. She became a little depressed seeing her how she was since she was extremely angry and jealous. Penemu had always been a serious and cold woman, sometimes seductive since she liked to annoy men by seducing them. She had never wanted to be with anyone nor be in anyone's place. She never felt like she was missing something. However, watching the scene that unfolds in front of her eyes made her for the first time want to be in someone's place, and that someone is the dragon. She wanted to be the one who was spoiled, but only by that man who was in front of her, by no other. Tiamat was another person who was like the fall. She had always been someone proud. She was never an affectionate person, and she never needed anyone by her side, or at least now, since seeing the scene that was in front of her. She also wanted being pampered by the only man who had made her heart move for the first time in her life. However, without the Dragon Queen realizing it, her hatred for Drake was going away, or at least calming down, making her head think that being with the brunette doesn't sound bad at all without caring that he is the owner of that dragon that she hates so much. Yasaka and Seraphal were suppressing their desire to jump into Isei's chasm so that he would also pamper them in that way. Mainly Seraphal, since her personality was very pampered. The brunette looked back at the leaders who were watching the scene. "Someone has another question," the brunette asked calmly while pampering his dragon. However, no one said anything. The brunette looked again at Azazel, who had been silent the entire time. "And you're Azazel, you've been silent the entire time. I know you have many questions you want to ask me," said the brunette, looking back at the fallen man who was looking at him. Everyone turned to see the fallen man who was still looking at the brunette with a calm look. However, he had something in his gaze. "Yes, I have many things that I would like to ask you. How did you survive? How could you fight with that dress? How do you know so many things?" And many other questions. The fallen man said calmly, staring at Issei. "However, I do not have the right to ask. I was one of the people who, although I did everything at the beginning to bring you back, over time I forgot you and even gave you up for dead. said the fallen man with much condolences in his words while everyone was silent upon hearing those words. I don't even know if I have the right to be in front of you. You were the person who saved my life when I thought everything was over for me, said the fallen one, lowering his head. The other leaders except for Yasaka and Seraphal lowered their heads in sign of shame. Everyone else also bowed their heads, mainly the leaders of the Gremory and Phoenix houses for what they had done. That's in the past is in the past. At that time I decided to make that decision because I couldn't allow myself to have all the leaders and their soldiers die when I could do something, said Issei, drawing the attention of everyone present. Even his girls saw him again. I made that decision knowing that the chances of surviving were maybe 1%, however. I did it only because I thought and believed it was the right thing to do. I didn't mind dying knowing that I could save more lives in the process, said the brunette calmly with a strong and clear voice that everyone listened to attentively. I didn't save them for fame or other things. I didn't save them thinking that you were going to save me, much less so that they would see me as a hero. I did it because it was the right thing to do. The brunette continued talking while the leaders and everyone saw him. Fixed mind. The simple fact that you remembered me was enough for me, since at least I was going to leave thinking that the people close to me would remember me in a good way and I could die proudly knowing that my actions would change things, said the brunette, turning stand up and walk a little around the room while everyone else followed him with their eyes, even his girls, since what he was saying was something that was very well guarded in his heart. However, I never thought that upon my return the world would have changed so much in such a short time, said the brunette with a sad expression. First I found out that the woman I loved and gave my life for her had forgotten me shortly after, and was going to get married, the brunette said while staring at Rias, who was totally frozen. After the other girls who had sworn eternal love to me also forgot about me and went with another man, the brunette said again, looking at the others who were petrified, including Kunu, who, although the brunette was not looking at her, knew that he was also referred to her. On my return, I was able to see 2 weddings, one of which was that 2 of the girls who were closest to me got married in front of my eyes, and the worst thing is that neither of them had even a slight trace of remorse for having forgotten me and left with another person, he said, drawing attention upon hearing those words while Kaneko and Kunu cried, one in her sister's arms and the other in her mother's arms. The other was nothing more nor less than the person who had died more than once, who had broken my back fighting against beings that could kill me at any moment just so that I would be safe, and that in the end he would forget me in about 3 damn years, and then his life would be like his nothing had happened, as if I had never existed. The brunette screamed, starting to lose control of himself due to his anger, because even though he didn't feel anything for them, he was angry for them. See how little their existence meant to them. As for the redhead, she was crying without saying any words. No, she couldn't say a word. She was completely frozen from hearing all those words. Issei-kun, I will not allow you to talk to Ria like that, the red-haired Mao was saying, but he was silent when the brunette moved at great speed and appeared next to the Mao, enlarging him by the neck and lifting him up. You shut up, you damn dress grace, the brunette shouted with clear anger in his voice. The brunette's girls were just watching everything calmly. They knew that their lover had been holding back those feelings all this time, because even though he didn't feel anything for him, Gremory Group couldn't help but get angry that they forgot him like that, as if his existence were nothing. I don't allow you to tell me that way. Talk to me as I deserve it, with respect. Although I am not yet a dragon god, I have the power of one, said the brunette seriously, beginning to release a little aura. The brunette brings the redhead closer to his face and looks him straight in the eyes. Now I am nothing like you because your sister married Razor, making my commitment to her completely null and void. I still remember how you and your parents smiled happily next to her as if nothing bad was happening, as if it was time. Happiest of their lives, the brunette said coldly while the red-haired Mao remained silent while Lord and Lady Gremory lowered their gaze in shame. You never thought that thanks to me that moment came. Thanks to me you were able to see that moment. You never thought that while you were laughing, I was fighting with a being that could kill everyone in this room, destroy my soul and body, only mine, so that they would forget me in that simple way, said the brunette seriously. The Mao, upon hearing that, looked away from the brunette and looked to the other side. The brunette looked at Lord and Lady Gremory, who avoided his gaze, making him angrier. He let go of the red-haired Mao, who fell into the chair that was before. The best thing of all is that when I returned, I realized that one of the girls who was always by my side was waiting patiently for me and was going to continue waiting for me when I returned with great determination. They were forcibly committing her only for a stupid pride and a little power, the brunette shouted angrily as he looked at the balcony where the entire Phoenix family was. They looked away when they saw the brunette watching them. Because they don't have the damn courage to see me in the face. The brunette shouted angrily at the Phoenix family, who looked away even more. When I returned to this dimension, I was forced to train my aura for a week since it was very strong, and I could kill humans with just my presence, said the brown man, now calmer. But what no one knows is that in just one day I controlled my aura, while the next 6 days I spent crying because of the pain I felt when hearing everything that had changed the world in my absence. My loved ones forgot about me and they had gone with others as if I did not exist. They were separating me from my other loved ones who did wait for me by marrying them to others. The people I had saved had forgotten about my existence as if I were nothing when I only wanted them to remember me. The brunette couldn't continue since he was crying because he couldn't take it anymore and bringing out everything he had kept in his chest. Issei girls' eyes were open, so even Ophis, since none of them knew what happened those days, they were crying when they saw the pain that their loved one had kept for so long. Now they understood why he no longer cared about the group. Gremory had cried so much, bringing out those feelings that tormented him. Seraphol, Yasaka, Revel, Ophis, Lu Fei were the ones who cried the most when they saw their loved one that way. Even Penemu had tears in her eyes when she heard the pain expressed in every word the brunette said. Even at that moment, Great Red, who had helped me, told me that if he wanted revenge he could go and destroy the underworld with me. When the brunette said that, all the demons present were surprised by that fact and were extremely scared. Only Seraphol, Revel, Tsubaki and Sona, who were crying on the balcony, Citri, were calm about that issue, since the other girls in Issei did not live in the underworld. 11. At that moment, the brunette suddenly increased his aura, causing everyone to fall to the ground due to the great pressure of aura he gave off. Only Vala's girls and the one who had been observing everything with a serious expression, Issei girls, Penemu, Tiamat and Sona, had not felt that pressure that crushed them and scared them since it was extremely powerful. I was very tempted to tell him that yes, after all, no one could beat me. However, I only discarded that fact because here live people that I love with the depths of my heart, and I would give my life for them, said the brown man with a smile, remembering to the girls who lived in the underworld who had waited for him. At that moment the brunette felt like someone hugged him. He saw again only to find out that they were Seraphol, Revel, Tsubaki, who hugged him tightly, causing his aura to disappear, and he began to caress the heads of the 3 girls, making they will hug him tighter. We will always be with you, the 3 said at the same time, still hugging the brunette, making him smile because of it. And I will always be with you, and you are the most important thing I have in life, said the brunette calmly, making the girls begin to cry upon hearing those words as they felt so loved by the person who had stolen their hearts. There was a moment of silence. No one said anything. While the brunette spent a moment with 3 of his girls, the others tried to recover, even the leaders who had affected them. None of them said anything. They already knew that the brunette was strong, but each time they became convinced. More than that, if they really provoked him, he could destroy the entire underworld since his strength was tremendously powerful. Sona, who had not had anything happen to her, was watching the scene from the Citri balcony with a little jealousy when she saw how her queen was so loved and protected. The Citri heiress gave a sigh, thinking about why love is so difficult. She was completely in love with the brunette, that was something she couldn't deny, but it was so difficult to tell him how she felt. She looked again at the brunette, who was hugged by 3 girls, completely happy to be loved by him. And of course, with a man like the one, that woman did not want to be loved by a man who is kind, affectionate, honest, attentive, overprotective. In addition to being handsome and sexy, it was almost illogical not to fall in love with a man like that. The Citri heiress cursed herself for her weakness in love, since she also wanted to feel loved by him, although she was not the only person, since Penemu and Tiamat, who had not been affected by the aura, watched that scene with clear jealousy of not being they. For the first time, 2 girls who had never fallen in love, who had lived for many years, had fallen in love with the only man their hearts claimed as worthy. After a few minutes the client had calmed down, the brunette returned to his work, doing the other girls the same way. They stare at the leader seriously. Leaving what happened a few moments ago aside, it is time to talk seriously about a topic in which everyone was related and the topic of why I wanted to meet with all of you, the brunette said seriously, making everyone in the room tense as they listened to the brunette, since from his tone it was something quite serious. The leaders opted for a serious attitude since they knew that something really bad was what the brunette was going to say. The war is approaching, he said seriously, leaving the entire room completely shocked by that news. The entire room was completely silent because of what the brunette just said. The leaders who were the first to come out of the shock had a completely serious expression since they knew that war was no game. What do you mean that the war is approaching? Odin said extremely seriously. As everyone knows, in recent years they have received attacks that seem random, said the brunette, to which old Odin nodded. Those attacks were not random as you really believe. Each attack was very well planned to obtain something that was in those places. That greatly surprised everyone present in the room. The first attack they received a few years ago was one of Grigori's bases, right, said the brunette, to which the fallen nodded. That base was where Azazel had how to make artificial sacred gears, the brunette said again, looking at the fallen one. Yes, they used that base before to make sacred gears. When they attacked, they only took some plans for some low-level sacred gears. The fallen man said without understanding where all that was going. After a few months they attacked another of Grigori's bases again, but this time one of the most protected, said the brunette, looking at the fallen man. That's right, we eliminated all of them. It was really a suicide attack, but I don't understand what you're getting at. The fallen man answered I still didn't understand what he was referring to. Azazel, that base is where he took Valerie for the first time to study his sacred gears, the brunette said, making the fallen man open his eyes in surprise. Not there, don't tell me that, the fallen man was trying to say, but he fell silent when he saw the brunette feeling, making the fallen man have an expression of extreme concern. You can explain what I was talking about, said the red-haired Mao, not understanding what they were referring to. All the attacks we have received, none have been random, they were all very well planned. Damn, like shit, I didn't realize. Azazel shouted when he found out the truth of those attacks. He got up and moved the chair in a clear sign of anger and frustration. Everyone present was surprised by this since they knew the attitude of the fallen man, and that I acted that way must have been something really important. Azazel, why do you act like that? Michael asked, totally dismayed at his brother's attitude. Note, remember that Azazel was the Archangel of Justice, despite being a fallen one. He is Michael's brother because he was once an archangel alongside Lucifer Morningstar. You don't understand, Michael. Every attack we have received has been planned. Every attack was planned to be a distraction, and so that the real enemy would get what he was looking for. Azazel said, very angry that someone like that would play with him. But the attacks we received only caused us to lose things that were not. The leader of the angels was going to continue speaking, but the brunette interrupted him. Important, a piece of metal from the Excalibur sword that was blessed by the same God of the Bible. Look wherever you look at it. That insignificant piece of metal still had the blessing of the God of the Bible, and it was also stolen from them. A bottle of salt water that they had kept since ancient times that was also blessed by the same God of the Bible, Elohim, said Issei, drawing attention and surprising those present that he knew so much. However, Michael had an expression of horror at having forgotten that since they only told him that a piece of the old Excalibur that was useless and a bottle of holy water were stolen, he did not know that it was one blessed by his father. The attack on Asgard, although it did not last at all and they were eliminated quickly, lasted long enough for them to steal a tiny branch of the Tree of Life, said Issei, making Odin open his eyes in surprise and suffer since it was true. That was extremely dangerous. The attack on the underworld, or rather the two attacks, were where two of Ajuka's laboratories were. One where he had something not very important for much, but for the person who wanted it was essential. Information on how to shape the matter of evil pieces, and the second was in Agrias. They stole a little of the material from which the evil pieces are made. A very insignificant part, but enough for whoever was looking for that material, said the fallen man with clear anger in his tone. Everyone was surprised by what they were hearing. Even the guests were silent while listening to nothing else since they saw that the topic was extremely serious. That person is trying to create a sacred gears with Azazel and Ajuka's manuals and the materials he stole from everywhere, the brunette said, drawing everyone's attention. What kind of sacred gears are you trying to create? Serzak asked seriously while looking at Azazel. However, he only looked away in disgust and anger and began to walk around the room. What he is trying to create is the Holy Grail. When the brunette said those words, the entire room was completely silent, while surprise was on the faces of everyone present. But he can't, he doesn't have a way," said the Mao with pigtails. "I still can't believe it. No, if it is possible, the manuals that he stole from one of my laboratories were manuals on sacred gears for summoning souls and manipulating the mind. At that time, I left it since it was not possible to have a soul summoned to this world," he said, Azazel very pleased with himself. With these plans, he will be able to create a copy of the Holy Grail that connects the souls and can control them, along with the incomplete information that he stole from what Azazel had investigated the Holy Grail that Valerie had. The brunette explained while everyone paid attention to what he said. Together with the Excalibur material and the holy water, he can make that false grail have the aura of a real one, and together with the material he stole from the evil pieces, he can form a more powerful grail that works correctly and can bring life to the souls that he calls use the root of the tree of life that he stole from Asgard, said Issei, leaving everyone completely white with that news. Azazel began to grind his teeth in anger for not realizing it before. "But then why did they try to kidnap me before?" Yasaka asked, not understanding that point since from what he sees they already had everything for the Holy Grail. "They didn't want you, that was also a distraction. What they wanted was the purification manual for your temple to purify the material from which the evil pieces are made and have a completely pure grail without side effects," Issei answered, calling the attention again of everyone present, and leaving them even more surprised. "But even so, it is still a copy. There must be a limit since the true Grail is still under the protection of the Alliance, which is also why he did not try to obtain it, because he knew it was suicide. And if they discovered it at that moment, it would ruin his plans. Were almost finished now," the brunette commented as he looked at Valerie, who was very surprised by everything she was hearing. "Who could it be?" Serzak asked, very worried about what the future holds for them. "That person is the reason why I am here and the power I came out of that dimension until now," said the brunette, drawing the attention of everyone present. "Now I will answer the question that Michael asked me, about how I got out, because if the Trihexa comes out too, or that was what was supposed to happen," said the brown-haired man calmly. "During my fight with the Trihexa, the seal that contained it in that dimension was completely destroyed. But something happened, and that was thanks to the fact that you sealed the Trihexa in the same dimension that the God of the Bible had sealed it previously, since when I destroyed it, that dimension had a second backup seal. That way, when the first one was destroyed, the second was activated, making the dimension that contains it dependent and able to maintain itself that way without help," said the brunette, surprising everyone with that. But the most surprised were the two Seraphim and Azazel. Revel was able to remove the Trihexa from that dimension by breaking the seal. However, it was not destroyed as long as the second seal was not activated. When you placed the seal in that dimension, that seal merged with the first, making it easier for me to maintain it since I didn't need much energy, and that's why I was able to defend myself from the Trihexa," Issei continued, while everyone was too surprised by that fact, while also breathing that now that beast would remain in that dimension forever. "During my training, Trihexa mentioned to me that Revel wanted to have a god on his side to be able to control his body due to the enormous power. However, he also told me that this god had stolen part of his powers." When the brunette said that, I was alerted to everyone in the room. "That is why I am here. Trihexa sent me to this dimension again so that I could kill that god for using his power, since his pride would not allow his power to be stolen, and go around showing it off as his own," said the brunette calmly, while the others were surprised by this. But the leaders were very worried. A god with the power of that beast was not a matter of games. "But who could it be that has that power?" Michael asked, very worried. "Whoever it was has to be a master of strategy to be able to devise all this and us without realizing it," Azazel said still angrily. "And it is, since the one we are talking about is Lord of the Heavens and main god of the Vedic region, or better known as the god of war, the atmosphere, the storm and lightning." When Issei said those words, all the room became deathly silent. No one could believe what he just said. One of the most powerful gods was now his enemy, and even worse with the power of the Trihexa and a false grail in his hands. Since I arrived in this new dimension, I have been working with Shiva on Indra's movements. We have eliminated a huge part of his army. However, now with the Holy Grail, he can revive them," said Issei, alerting everyone that the possible war is closer than you imagined. "That is why I am now here in front of you. Despite being powerful, if a war occurs, I will not be able to defeat everyone, mainly if it aims to overthrow all factions and proclaim itself as the only god and ruler of this world." The brunette said so that everyone began to panic, since he now knew that Indra, a being who, if he was strong, has the help of the Holy Grail and part of Trihexa's energy, could attack them at any moment. "If the war breaks out, even though I can kill everyone he resurrects with ease, I need to save all my energy to fight Indra." When the brunette said that, all the leaders looked at him very surprised and with some doubts, since they knew that the brown was strong, but they did not know how strong. Despite knowing that he was powerful, they did not know if he was at the same level that Indra now has. "I am very powerful. Although I cannot defeat him, I am going to leave him more dead than alive. At that moment is when Shiva will finish him if in one case I fail." At that moment all the girls in Issei looked at their beloved with great concern. When they heard those words, did not want to lose their loved one. The brunette saw that and gave them a smile full of love, reassuring them. "Don't worry, you know that I'm not easy to kill, and I'm not going to die for anything in the world, especially now that I have all of you by my side. So I promise you that it doesn't matter that I won't die for anything in the world, since I have the dream of being able to marry you and start a family," said the brunette with a big smile full of love and affection, causing the girls to be in total shock upon hearing those words, while without realizing it, tears ran down their cheeks. Immediately all of them started to hug the brunette without caring that other people were there, even Yasaka and Serafal, who were on the other side of the table. They didn't care at all, and they threw themselves over the table to hug the person they love. The brunette fell because they all rushed to hug him. However, instead of complaining, he gave a smile and hug to some and a kiss to others, reassuring his loved ones and making them understand that he will always be there for them. On the part of all the girls, they could not help but have a big and beautiful smile on their faces as they felt the love of their loved one, making them calm down and think and reaffirm that they made the best decision of their lives by choosing to be with him. Even Elman, who is an extremely proud vampire, was extremely happy as tears came out of her beautiful eyes when she saw that she chose the best man. On one of the balconies, there was an albino woman watching all this with tears streaming down her beautiful face, since those words had also reached her, and for some reason she could feel the love that the brunette dedicated only to his girls. Next to Ross was her husband Ryu with a big smile as he listened to everything the brunette said, and making him reaffirm that what he was going to do later was the best decision. He returned to see his dear wife, who was smiling with tears running down her cheeks. "Very soon, Ross." "No. She is no longer mine." "Better, very soon, dear Ross," Ryu whispered with a smile on his face, waiting for the moment to be able to talk to the brunette. The Gremry's girls were in a flood of tears. However, this was not because of what the brunette said, but rather they were crying because they felt frustrated, they felt sad, they hurt because they could feel the love that the brunette had for them. In each word and each expression they wanted that love and that affection. Rather, they longed to feel those feelings, but seeing that they were not going towards them was destroying them. But apart from that, there were 3 girls who were resisting the urge to go and hug the brunette because clearly those feelings were also directed at them. But they were doing everything possible not to lose control. Those girls were Sona, Tiamat and Pennymew. Sona was holding on tightly to the balcony so as not to jump and go hug the brunette, and send everything to hell and let herself be loved. However, her indecision and fear wouldn't let her. She cursed in a low voice for how weak he was on this topic. Tiamat was not very well either. Her pride did not let her go and claim Issei as her mate, since she still had that pain and some anger that he is the host of Drag, the dragon that lent her his treasure and broke it, really. He didn't care much if it was any treasure, but precisely that treasure was a gift from his mother who had left him. He had lent it to Drake because he trusted him and he had promised to return it. But when he saw that he had broken it, causing him to hatred grew, and the dragon grew for breaking something that was so valuable to her. Penema was no different from the previous ones. She wanted to let herself be loved. She wanted to go and hug the brunette, but something in her heart was holding her back. That feeling that she did not know made her feel very vulnerable and insecure. That's why she was not going to hug the brunette. Since he was still, she didn't know whether to let herself be carried away by those feelings that she didn't know about, making her feel vulnerable, or to continue as she was and feel safe and protected by her. But for some reason she felt that if she did that she would lose the person who was important to her. After a few moments the girls stood up, calmer, and the brunette gave them a kiss, making them blush for the show of love, while other girls were dying of jealousy, although they weren't the only ones, all the men too, since they couldn't deny it. But all of them were extremely beautiful. It was like out of every 1,000,000 girls there was one that was the most beautiful. Only the brunette had more than one like that next to him. Damned lucky guy. All the men in the room thought when they saw that. Yasaka and Seraphol stayed next to the brunette, hugging him one by each arm, while he had Lefei behind him hugging him from behind, and Ophis and Revel sitting on his laps while they hugged him. The other girls only stayed as close to him as possible, their loved ones, since they couldn't hug him, for now. All the girls did not care if others saw them like that or if they were involved in something important, since for them the most important thing is to be with their loved one, and after hearing the previous words they did not want to get away from him. Cough cough. Getting back to the topic, if the fight is so dangerous, why don't you tell Shiva to help you or any of us? Azazel asked, trying to get back to the important topic to stop cursing the boy for the luck he had with women, hoping that he doesn't have any more, because if he wasn't, he was going to kill the brunette and bathe in his blood to see if his luck with women would happen and he could make his desire come true to make Gabriel his. Things are not so simple. Indra is not alone, since he somehow has Brahma and Vishnu under control, and from what Shiva told me the last time I faced them, it seemed that Indra gave them a little of the power of the Trihexa, making them their level rises spontaneously. I need Shiva to take care of them while I take care of Indra, and why I don't ask you for help is because Indra is more powerful than you together. Not for nothing is he an extremely strong god, and now with him the power of the Trihexa, its level has risen a lot. The only thing that bothers you, and I hope you don't take it the wrong way, will be to get in the way in that fight due to its low level," said the brunette, making the leaders lower their heads. Even Odin, despite already being very powerful, he is not at the level he was when he was young, and Indra with the power of Trihexa was not an easy enemy. The only person who could help me still does not have the required level, which would be Vala, who is barely at the level of a god but not at the level that Indra has at this moment, said the brunette, making everyone turn to look at Vala, who made an expression of displeasure at not being able to have the required level, and did not say anything because he knew that it would only get in the way of the fight. "Hey brat, you said before that Shiva fought with them, what was that? Maybe they already fought recently?" Old Odin asked seriously. "Yes, in fact, a few weeks ago Indra came out of hiding for the first time and attacked the vampire faction," said the brunette, surprising everyone and seeing Elman hild again, remembering that she was the sovereign of the vampire faction. "In that attack very few died, the damage is only material. In that attack I faced Indra while Shiva faced the other two, and I have to say that Indra was extremely powerful. Even defeating him would be more difficult than I thought," the brunette said, surprising everyone and worrying them. "But that's not all." This time Vala spoke, drawing everyone's attention. "That bastard has the Merotra, who are extremely powerful beings. During the battle in Romania, those bastards almost killed us more than once," said Vali, surprising everyone present. "Vala, you were there?" Azazel asked, very surprised by that fact. Vala only nodded, surprising the fallen man even more. "In fact, if Issei Sama had not arrived, I would have died, since Indra was planning to kill me," the vampire said, looking down at how weak she was. However, the brunette caressed her head while giving her a smile, and the girls hugged her, climbing up to her, encouraging her and making her smile. She never thought she would have friends who would really support her and help her when she needed it, although they were more like sisters. Not everyone could survive Indra's current situation, however the thing is serious. Indra has obtained great power that must be stopped as soon as possible. The supernatural world is really in danger, and it is now that all the fractions are restored. Unite to confront a great evil, as in the case of Trihexa," said the brunette, while everyone had a serious look. "This is so serious that all the factions unite again. That time it was because no one could against the Trihexa, but now he is just a man, and you say that you can defeat him, or at least leave him almost dead," said the Mao redhead serious mind. "No. This is too serious. Indra has the power of the Holy Grail. The fact that it revived not only her soldiers but also all the enemies that we defeated in that war with the Trihexa," said Azazel, walking around the room with a quite serious countenance. "In other words, we are about to relive the war against the entire Chaos Brigade, the war against the evil dragons and mainly against rise of him, Levon, Lucifer," the fallen man said extremely seriously while staring at Vala, who had an expression of total disgust. "However, this time it is going to be harder since it will not be just them but also Indra's army, which although it is very small is extremely powerful. Its generals are on par with a goat or seraph," said the brown man, making everyone start to worry. "How much time do you think we have?" asked the father of all serious mind with clear disgust in his eyes. "It seems that he is going to participate in another war." "Not much, maybe a couple of months, since I doubt that the process of creating a grail is not easy, much less mastering it," the brown-haired man answered seriously. "Because there's no time either?" Michael asked, worried that it would be in such a short time. "When Indra attacked Romania, she took something that seems to have greatly advanced her plans," the brunette said, giving a tired sigh. The girls of the brunette, seeing him like this, were worried. They knew that the weight of this war would fall on the shoulders of their lover, and although they cannot be removed, they will do everything possible to remove even a little. It seems that when Valerie is with the Teeps, one of them was secretly investigating her and collected a lot of information about the Holy Grail that is now in the hands of Indra, said the brown-haired man, releasing a sigh while the other leaders were already beginning to get stressed about everything that they knew today. "Call all the factions, tell them to prepare and have their defense at its maximum from now on for any attack, and I also need you to gather everyone together to explain to them what we are going to do," said the brown-haired man, to which everyone looked at him with surprise. Surprise and disbelief except for his girls and Vala's group for having thought of a plan. It seems that he not only grew up, but also matured. Azazel thought with a proud smile as he saw his beloved student now become a real man. "Do you have a plan?" Michael asked, very interested in seeing or rather knowing this facet of Issei. He had always seen it, and despite having a noble and brave heart, he was always a pervert, and he always doubted him despite his determination, and he could barely think of a strategy. However, seeing him now in that aspect was something that made Michael very happy, since now having a noble and brave heart, he also has a strong heart, and best of all, his doubts had disappeared. He has even matured to such a level that he now thinks coldly and about the situation as serious as it is now, while remaining calm and thinking of a way to emerge victorious from a war that they may lose. And the best thing is that even though he can see that his perversion is not carried away by that, and he now respects a woman more as he should and saves his perversion for an intimate moment with his partner. "Of all the men in the world, you chose the right one, my dear sister. I hope you can be happy with him," Michael thought as he saw the real Issei, the one who life has made him mature, and despite adversity, he remains firm and upright in front of anyone who wants to harm their loved ones. "The first thing you have to know is that we cannot fight here because it would end up damaging the underworld area a lot. Heaven is completely ruled out, and much less about the human world, since a war of this level is going to be really bad in that world. That is why I have created, together with the Great Red, a piece of land in the dimensional rift. That way the damage we cause there will not affect this world, and that way we can fight with everything without holding back. And when I say with everything, it is with everything," said the brown man seriously. "Mind as he went to see his leaders with his transformations," the brunette said, looking at the red-haired Mao, making him understand that he should fight in his form of destruction with all his tricks. Said Issei, looking at Azazel, making him understand that he should take out all the artificial sacred gears that they have stored with their most powerful armor. Said Issei, looking at Michael, making him understand that they fight with their true armor. "With all the armies," said Issei, looking at Odin, making him understand that all the heroes, Valkyries and gods go to war. The leaders were extremely surprised by those words that, when said by the brunette when he said them, actually sound as if they were necessary. This is not a small war. It will not even be compared to the wars of the past, and I am not saying this because it will be very bloody, but because I plan to start and finish it at once, with the help of the Great Red, we can teleport the entire army to the field in the crack. Once there are only two options, either they kill us or we kill them, said the brunette seriously as he saw the leaders who were with their eyes wide open because of what they heard. But not only them, everyone present, they were the same. That's Odin was going to say something but is interrupted by the brunette. Madness, since when have these fights not been crazy? From the first moment I set foot in the supernatural world, everything has been crazy. The brunette said seriously, leaving Odin silent because of what the brunette said. Issei carefully calls his girls and begins to walk around the room. From the moment I arrived in the supernatural world, my entire life has been complete madness. First, I realized that from a normal human, I went to possess a weapon with the power to kill a god. I fought against a high-class demon when I had barely been learning for a month that the supernatural world existed, said the brunette clearly while everyone listened to him. After a short time he fought against a fighting madman like Kokabeel who had survived a fight with the original mouse, and the god of the Bible himself. The brunette continued saying clearly, but although it sounded like a complaint it seemed more like he was making everyone understand something, so no one interrupted him. When I finally have some free time and assimilate everything that had happened, I found out that I had a rival who wanted to kill me without even knowing me. When the brunette said that, Vala couldn't help but smile when remembering that time where his friend and rival was alone. Mine was a fly in his eyes. However, when I thought that things couldn't get worse, they did, because I had to fight against a god when they hadn't even been in the supernatural world for half a year, said Issei, while Odin only heard him say that. He smiled bitterly as he remembered that moment. I went on an excursion to Kyoto and I felt like I could really clear my head even if it was only for a few days. However, I ended up fighting a guy who had the most powerful weapon in the whole world, and I only fought because I had promised Kunu and because he didn't want Yasu-chan to get hurt. The brunette continued, making Kunu lower his head, wanting to go back to that time and fix his mistake, while Yasaka had a calm and tender smile when remembering how her beloved sacrificed himself with heart and soul to save her. However, it didn't end there. I fought against evil dragons that had a god complex, an imbecile demon with a superiority complex, cheap copies of what I was, said the brunette with a nervous and tired smile just thinking about everything that happened to him. Had passed until now. He looked back at the leaders who were staring at him without saying anything. And the cherry on the cake, I was fighting against the most powerful beast in the whole world, which could kill me at any moment, and yet after having died, I no longer remember, I think 3 times, being almost on the verge of death. I don't know, I already lost count when I was already going for the 10th time, and if we count all the hell I have endured all this time to get to where I am now, they really think I don't know what it is. Crazy. The brunette finished saying, leaving the entire room in complete silence. Even Valley and Ophis were silent because of everything they heard. Note, Issei says all this calmly, he is not shouting it, if he is not telling it. Everyone knew that he wasn't complaining anymore. He was telling what his crazy life was like. Issei sat back down in his chair while calmly running his hand through his hair while giving a few tired sighs, and then looked back at Odin, who was silent. Old man, I know what madness is, because from the first day I stepped foot in this world my life has been completely crazy. I went from a normal fanboy to breasts where I only wanted a girlfriend with good breasts to touch, and without no real concern for a person, where every moment I had free. I had to train myself to survive in a really hard world, said the brunette, letting out a few sighs, where I had to worry that I had to avoid a faction war like in the case of Kokabeel and Loki. I had to worry if I would survive to see tomorrow when I fought against Kakao or the evil dragons. I had to worry that this world don't keep quiet in the dark because of people like Rise of Him, or in desperation in the case of Trihexa, said the brunette with a really tired expression. Who set foot in this great world has not even had a month of rest. Now I have to fight a demented and deranged god with a ruler's complex. Sigh, while you had these free years, I haven't even had the opportunity to sit down and assimilate everything that has happened to me. Even after 10 years, I still don't. To be able to sit down and assimilate that in no time I have fought and survived with beings that can kill or cause real disasters, said the brunette as he let out a big sigh as he looked back at the leaders. The only good thing that happened to me after all that madness that I have experienced is that I was able to meet these beautiful ladies who are my reason for living and for getting up every day, to be able to see those beautiful smiles that motivate me so much to move forward to that in the future, being able to live peacefully with them while forming a large and beautiful family with these ladies that I love so much and would give my life for each of them makes me extremely happy when I think about forming a family with the people I love with all her heart. To be able to marry each one of her so that I can grow old slowly with them while we share happy moments, and see our children grow up, get married, and have our grandchildren. Issei finished saying with a big smile full of happiness and love. Just the thought of spending your time with these girls who have made your heart beat so strong. At that moment, no one said anything. Even many people, whether adults or young people, had mixed feelings upon hearing the brunette speak in that way. Vala was one of the most affected, since lately he has spent a lot of time with the brunette, causing him to be influenced by him in some aspects. Being a person with pride, he had never thought of having a quiet life. The only thing he wanted was to fight with strong opponents, feeling the adrenaline of being on the verge of death in a fight. That was what he lived for. However, 10 years later, he had married 5 beautiful girls that he loved. He never said it because of his pride, but he loved them, and they knew it. But despite loving them, he never thought as much about the future as what he just heard from his best friend. Always felt that something was missing, that something wasn't right. Although he never stopped loving them, the feeling never left, thinking that what he felt was his desire to fight again. But now that he heard the brunette say all those words, he finally understood that feeling. It was not his desire to fight. That feeling was that he wanted peace, but when he remembered his life, he never had it. Since he was a child, he suffered for his father, a trained teenager, a young adult who faced powerful beings. He had never had peace, but now he understood that feeling he felt, which never left, was the desire to be able to be calm and at peace. For the first time he thought about the future, and the idea of spending the rest of his life with his beloved wives, while he grew old together, and watching his children grow up and fall in love and then get married and see his grandchildren was something that he was really liking. Not everything in life is fighting Valley. Because you don't take time of peace with your women, and if you want to fight with someone you can tell hild to Issei. After all, a fight once in a while doesn't sound bad as long as you live peacefully. Albion said to his friend, making him smile and say, "Thank you, friend." Vala turned to look at his girls who were behind him. However, when they saw him, they were surprised. At the same time, they were blushing hard, since their beloved husband was giving them a smile that they had never seen, while it was full of love for them. They were listening to the brunette, and immediately when he said those words, they blushed a little at the thought of growing old with their beloved husband. Lies. They saw their children grow up. However, when they saw their beloved see them again and smile at them in that way, they made their hearts begin to beat strong. Mind. At that moment, they were all too blushing and shocked to move. However, Vala came to them while hugging them and told them something that they never thought they would hear, or at least not for now. "I love them," Valle thought, making them shed tears of happiness when they heard him say those words that were recorded in the depths of their hearts. "We love you too," the girls said at the same time as they hugged their beloved husband with all their love while smiling. No one had noticed that scene, as everyone was in their own thoughts. Azazel and Michael were others who were very affected. After having lived through those wars, they never really thought about living peacefully. After all, they were always afraid that those wars would return, but now upon listening to Issei, they thought that it was better to forget those thoughts, and just live calmly the present. On the part of the brunette girls, everyone was in complete silence. They were blushing, but they were crying. Even Ophis had tears in her eyes because of what she had just heard. All of them felt the feeling that each of those words had, the love, affection, tranquility, happiness, and the hope of being able to fulfill them. All of them felt how their hearts began to beat rapidly when they thought about everything their loved one said. They had thought that, and every time they thought about it, they liked it more and more. The idea of growing old with their loved one, and seeing their loved ones growing up, they liked it a lot, but the way he said it was something none of them expected. He said it with so much love, so much affection, and above all, so much hope, as if that were his most cherished wish. A feeling of happiness began to run through their entire body. Then they began to cry with happiness. They wanted it not to be a dream. However, seeing their loved one who gave them a big and beautiful smile full of love and affection was not, they could bear it. but their hearts were overflowing with happiness. Ophis was someone who didn't know what to do. She had never felt that before. She had fallen in love with Issei. He had always taken care of her and protected her. Since she couldn't fall in love, she wanted him to be her partner, and the father of her babies. However, she never thought more hence. Now that she hears that he wants to grow old with her, always live with her until the end of his days while they shared happy moments. If that was something she wanted and desired, she had now fallen in love even more than she had, who was already making his world only shine when he is with his loved one. Lu Fei couldn't stop crying. Her heart was beating so fast and strong as if it wanted to come out of her chest since she couldn't contain so much happiness. She had fallen in love with that boy who gave everything for his loved ones even after not seeing him that time. Feeling of love they never left her, and the only thing she did was get stronger. When she returned, it was the happiest moment of her life. She even fulfilled the dream she had of marrying him. However, from that moment on she never thought about the future since she alone minded he wanted to be next to his beloved brunette without caring about anything. However, now seeing her, hearing him say those words made her extremely happy. How could she refuse to form a family with her husband? That idea was in her mind. The desire to have the fruit of her love was something that made her very happy. Kuroka always had a dream, or rather a desire, which was to be able to restore her race. She wanted to have offspring with a strong person so that her kittens, as she tells them, would be very powerful and put her race in something. After a while, she met to one of the celestial dragons. For her that was the opportunity. However, she was always rejected by him until she met the other celestial dragon. A perverted but fun person for her, she always liked to bother him when she could see him fight and give everything for her loved ones. She was very surprised to know that beneath that perverted face was a man who gives everything for the people important to her. Without realizing it, she was slowly falling in love with that man who always treated her with affection. When she realized that she was in love with him, she thought that now more than ever she wanted him to be the father of her kittens, but she never thought anything else. After there, hearing him say those words so full of love and affection made her very happy, knowing that she had fallen in love with the best man in the world, and she wished she could always be with her beloved while she watched her future kittens grow up. And she was not the only one, since all the other girls had the same thoughts of being able to have a family with their loved one and being with him for the rest of their lives. They wanted to fulfill that hope that he had in his heart. They immediately turned to throw themselves at their loved one, making him see them with a calm but happy smile. Each one of them had a happy smile while some tears came out of their eyes. And to think that before you were just an idiot addicted to breasts, but now you are a real man, a man who has experienced too many things in his short life. Well, perverted brother, let me see which way you will take this world, thought the father of all with a smile. Odin had stood up, drawing the attention of everyone present, including the brunette and his girls who returned to their places. The All-Father gave a small piece of paper along with a kind of metal to Issei, leaving him with great doubts as to what those things were. What you have in your hands is a communication paper that can communicate directly with me, and that metal is the authorization of the entire Asgardian army. Even the gods will be under your command. When old Odin said those words, Azazel was giving him something in the heart, while Michael and Surzek had frozen upon hearing those words. Although they were not the only ones, the entire room was still only the girls in the brown hair who had a smile when they heard him say that. With this you have the support of Asgard for this war. I want to see where you will take this world, Odin said again with a smile on his face. The leaders looked at each other again, and everyone nodded. We don't have something to give you like Odin Dano, but the angels are going to support themselves in this war alongside the Asgardians, Michael said with a sincere smile, making the brunette return it. I can no longer make a decision like that, but I am sure that the current ruler of the fallen angels will also support you and will be at your side along with the angels and the Asgardians. The demons of we are going to continue. Issei-chan, we are going to support you along with the angels, fallen and Asgardians, Seraphol said seriously but very animated. However, Surzek was going to say something, but when he saw the smile that the pig-tailed Mao gave him, he better stayed reserved. As the current leader of the you guys, I believe that this decision is very important. However, I do not have much experience in leading my faction, but we will still do everything to help you. The you guys will support you along with the Asgardians, the demons, the angels, and the fallen. Kuna said with determination, holding back the urge to cry when she saw how the brunette said thank you with a smile. Yasaka, who saw this, smiled on her face as she saw how her girl grew up to become a great leader, although later she lost her comfort since she was still his little girl. I thank you and I hope you can help me convince the other factions since their help will be needed. The brunette said, making everyone nod since they knew they would need all the help possible. However, Ophis took a step to the brakes, feeling everyone watching her. As one of the dragon gods, all the dragons will also support Red and me in this war. When Ophis said those words, the leaders were wide-eyed at those words, although the brunette had a smile on his face when he heard her say that. Since there are no more reasons to continue with this meeting, I think we should end it, said the brunette, making the leaders recover from their surprise, making them agree with him. But before you leave, one last thing, reinforce your factions while you prepare your armies. We don't know what Indra has planned. I will also hold another meeting with the other leaders of the factions in a few weeks. Issei finished saying while the leaders thought in the future that was coming. However, they had a smile. This will be the first and true time all the factions of the world will unite. After those words, all the people in the room began to leave. However, the brunette called the leader of heaven. Michael, I would like to ask your permission to visit heaven, said Issei, to which he looked at him in doubt. I think Gabriel doesn't know about me. I would like to go visit her and surprise her. The brunette said calmly again with a calm smile, making heaven leader smile back. Of course, just tell me when you're going to go to make some preparations, said the leader of heaven with the same calm smile. I would have liked to go right now, but unfortunately I have to settle some matters here, said the brunette, pointing behind him where Rias and her group were along with Lord and Lady Gremory who were waiting for him. When Michael saw this, he nodded in understanding. I hope I can make you welcome me tomorrow afternoon, said the brunette calmly. Don't worry. Just tell Irina to take you with her next to you. Nothing will happen, said the leader of heaven while receiving a settlement from Issei. Michael left the room, leaving the Gremory group alone with his family and a brunette who was with his girls since they did not want to leave him. Issei, we will wait for you at the Gremory mansion, Surzek said, leaving with everyone. The brunette breathed a big breath when he saw this. Is Issei-sama feeling fine? Lu Fei asked, seeing how her beloved husband was doing. If I'm fine, Fei-chan, it's just that this talk was something that I would like to avoid, but well, nothing can be done. Very well, girls, let's visit the Gremory mansion one more time and maybe the last one, said the brunette to receive everyone's assent. Issei created a transportation circle large enough for everyone and they all left towards the Gremory's grounds. That's it, guys. Thanks for listening to my video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and comment below your favorite part. Sayonara, see you in the next video.